Hey everyone, and welcome to Elsewhere in the Multiverse, the comic book podcast from MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, and over there on the other side of the screen is Connor.
It is. Is it throwing you off not saying over on the red side?
It is, because that's what I do in TV Multiverse, because it's different colours on each side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, I can see you wanting to say that and being like, nope, it's all red.
You got red on you. So yeah, we talk about comic books on this show. This is our show in which we talk about Marvel comics and indie comics, basically anything that's not DC that we want to talk about. Because our main show is a DC Comics podcast called Comics from the Multiverse. Go check that out if you haven't. But here, this is our second episode. This is our first kind of main week talking about weekly books. There's a couple that we caught up on for this week, so we'll talk about the movie as a whole as well. But for the most part, this is just these issues. Over the course of the show. Everything is time-stamped, of course, in the description. We do have some news to talk about first. Not a lot, but a little bit. But coming up on this week's show in terms of books, we have Champions Issue 1, Conan the Barbarian Issue 1, Man Without Fear Issue 1, Wolverine the Long Night Issue 1. That's 4 issue 1s from Marvel this week.
Oh boy.
We have Uncanny X-Men issue 8, Immortal Hulk number 11, Tony Stark Iron Man number 7, Mr. and Mrs. X number 7, Killmonger number 3, Winter Soldier number 2. Connor's going to talk about Star Wars Age of Republic, Obi-Wan Kenobi issue 1.
It's a mouthful of a title, isn't it?
Bloody hell. And then there was actually no indie books that we were reading that came out this week, but for the sake of some variety, there's a book coming out next week, issue 3. And I thought I'll catch up on the first 2 and talk about them this week. So I'm going to talk about William Gibson's Alien 3 issues 1 and 2, which is the Alien book that's based on the unused screenplay for Alien 3 before it became what we got. So it's more of a direct sequel to Aliens, so I'll be talking about that at the
Probably better.
Well, I'll get to that later. That is what's coming up on the show. I will say we didn't have to do like an hour of prep before this one, so I'm a bit more peppy coming into this one.
Yeah, me too. I don't feel completely dead.
Yes, we're coming into this. We're going to talk about books. It's fun to be excited about comic books. And the funny thing about this week is that last week we caught up on a bunch of books. We talked about them because it was stuff that we were willing to get up to date on. You know, whether it be issue 6, issue 10, whatever. It was all stuff we were fairly positive on. Even the weakest thing, which was like Uncanny X-Men, I still enjoy reading it well enough. It's still got qualities that I like. This one's a bit interesting because we got a few issue 1s. We got some things that maybe we don't like that much. That maybe
Yeah, I mean, even the ones that we caught up on, like Winter Soldier and Killmonger, are only 2 or 3 issues by this point. Where it's like, well, that's enough that we'll read that and find out.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but anyway, so a little bit of news before we get into the books themselves. Just a couple of quick things. Couple of scheduling things from Marvel, more than anything. Captain America issues 7 and 8 have both been delayed by 2 weeks. It doesn't actually affect it that much. They're still coming out in the month they're supposed to come out. Issue 7 is now out on January 30th, which is 2 weeks later than when it was going to be. Issue 8 is out on February 20th, which is 2 weeks later than it's supposed to be. Issue 9 in March was already scheduled for 20th of March, which almost
implies
indicates
implies they already knew this was going to happen by the time they came to those solicits.
Yeah. So that was already in the later part of the month, which is fair enough. So
yeah, it's a little disappointing the fact that I'm enjoying the book, but
yeah.
Hey, 2 weeks plus it'll give us something on a week 5, which are typically a little bit quieter.
Yes. Which might still be for Marvel, and that it's definitely not for DC this month because DC took a week off in December, so all 5 weeks of January are packed. But
yeah, because that's our typical week 4, which from DC, oh boy,
pretty hefty. Yeah, pretty hefty. And then Return of Wolverine issue 5 got delayed from January 30th to February 20th. Interestingly, this article in Newsarama pointed out that this issue is going to be drawn by Steve McNiven, who was originally going to do all 5 issues of the book because it's a 5-issue mini, but he was replaced for issues 2 through 4. So this is him coming back for the final issue.
He's a great artist, not a fast artist.
Not a fast artist, no. And then the other thing from Marvel is that War of the Realms issue 1, the big event that's coming, it was advanced solicited for April, even though we've not had April solicits yet. But it was solicited originally for $4.99. It's actually went up to $5.99. They put out a newsletter to the industry, basically, the distributors and the shop owners. And there was no reason given for it. or if the subsequent issues will also be $5.99. I assume they won't be. I feel like it'll be $5.99 issue 1, and then probably $4.99 for the rest of the issues.
Yeah, it's kind of shitty. I wonder if they've added extra pages since that original solicit, or if it's just Marvel gonna gouge.
It may just be that. Because it was a really nice article. Big Bang Comics on Twitter, which is an Irish comic book store, who do a lot of great sales data. They're very open. They just did their top 100 graphic novels of 2018.
Oh, I haven't seen this year's yet. I do typically enjoy reading that list.
I mean, it wasn't their article, but they linked an article that a retailer wrote about the problems in the industry and what's kind of killing the direct market. And it was a really interesting read about, you know, variants and how the final order cutoff makes them be very, like, they don't order extra books just for the shelf for people to, like, you know, come in, like, maybe like, oh, that looks interesting, I'll grab that, because they can't afford to because of the way the system works. And it was just it was very interesting stuff. But one of the things was on the prices, because obviously we're seeing things rise. $3.99 is now the baseline price. A lot of Marvel books for issue 1s will be $5.
Yeah.
One of the things they pointed out, which I did not know they did, is that Marvel apparently do like compilation issues of like 3 issues later for, like, you know, other stores, which are like $4 for like 3 issues, and it makes you wonder, like, do they really need to charge like $4 or $5 an issue in the first place, or is it just being greedy?
Yeah, this is the one that you get like news agents and like supermarkets, right?
And they're all a bit later, I get, but like
I think they're usually 3 or 6 months later, because I think DC do a similar thing.
Yeah. But it specifically mentioned Marvel in this, based on the pricing, and it was, you know, it was all these things about, like, oh, you have to buy 100 issues to get this variant, or you have to do this to get that, and so on.
That's some of the shittiest stuff. I mean, the price is annoying, but at least I can, in my mind, I can go, well, some of it's going to the writer, some to the artist, some to the printing of the book, some to the retail. You know, I can see where the slice of all of it goes. Whereas, oh, we want to sell, you know, these variants, so order 100, and, you know, you'll then because you're going to have 90 extra copies, you have to charge way more for this variant.
Which now, I think they calmed down on a little bit for a while, but it feels like people are complaining about it again. So
I saw an article earlier about them adding like 5 more variant covers for Captain Marvel next week. If I just look now, because I just saw one. They've added another handful of Black Widow variants. So there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 covers for that now.
Yeah, the sad part is that they do kind of up the sales figures, which is why they do them. But one of the other things this article was getting into was the idea that all the constant, like, relaunches to #1 is actually a kind of a bad thing, because as much as it's a jumping on point is what the idea is, it's also a jumping off point for people who are sick of it.
I've used it as jumping off points in the past myself.
Yeah, it does happen. No, we're both mainly digital readers. You'd buy a few physical books, but not a lot.
My favourite books, I tend to buy physical. I used to buy a bunch of, like, my Star Wars books. I used to buy physical when, you know, because they did the digital codes, so I would get both that way. And then there was a period of time where they stopped including the digital codes, so I just went, right, well, I've got all my digital collection. It's cheaper. I'm gonna do that, right? And then they
brought it back, but then you missed the chunk.
But then I was like, well, I'm not gonna go and rebuy all those issues and catch up. Forget it.
Yeah. So, you know, it's just it was a good article about all the problems going, and they're all kind of things that we've all been kind of known about and thought about for the last couple of years. But it was worth a read. I'm sorry I don't have an actual name to go along with this, because I never thought about bringing this up. I just did because the price gouging was basically what made me think of it. But yeah, so yes, War of the Realms issue 1, which is coming out in April. And then a little bit of news. This is for a creator-owned book. Scott Snyder and Charles Soule announced that they're doing a creator-owned book together. They're co-writing a book. They've got an artist, but they've not announced who the artist is yet. Although Soule did say that he's worked with them before. It's going to be 5 or 6 issues. It's a mini. It's about America, he said, was the quote. But they've been working on this for at least 2 years, and they're saying it'll start coming out by October. Basically, they said New York Comic Con specifically. By New York Comic Con, the first issue should be out.
Okay.
So
I'm excited. I like both of these writers to varying degrees. I know you're not big on Soule. You can have problems with Snyder.
Snyder's back and forth. Snyder, when Snyder's doing horror, he is like on top form. Soul, I've not tried anything by Soul that I've liked yet.
I've struggled to get into his Marvel work. I've loved his Star Wars work. I loved his Swamp Thing stuff. I've loved some of his indie work, but I've not. I'm hoping that I'll enjoy this as well.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But it felt like it was worth mentioning because it was big enough to throw in. But that was it. That was the news. Obviously, it's fairly. I mean, comics has this weird cycle of news where it gets really busy around solicits and then it'll be quiet for a few weeks.
I know. Snyder said we should be getting Witches back this year.
Yes, he. You know what? He said it before though.
He has said it before, but
he said it before.
Maybe this is the year.
He said it before because they did like a one-off special thing in October.
Yeah, no, he said he was referring to the proper return.
No, that's not what I wasn't debating what he was talking about.
Yeah, I think it was called Bad Eggs or something stupid.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is he did like a one-shot special, and I've still not read it because it's just not in my mind. I'm just not thinking about it because
I bought it. It's just sat there.
Yeah,
I'll get to it eventually.
I liked the first, few issues of it. I don't even know if I finished the arc when it started because it went on that break and I thought I'll wait until it comes back, and that was like 3 years ago.
No, I definitely did.
So I'll have to read it again anyway. Like, there's no way I can jump into more Witches without.
Oh God, no! I'm gonna have to reread it as well.
There's no way I can read it without rereading what I've read already.
But anyway, I'm sure if/when it does return, we'll be covering it.
Yes, we'll talk about it. But yeah, so, but that's it. So we should get on to the books now. We have a decent spattering of books. We will start off with Champions issue 1. As I say, I put the two ongoing issue 1s first. I feel like those were the bigger deals. So Champions issue 1, Jim Zub and Stephen Cummings on the art. Now I don't think had you read any Champions before this?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Luckily, I like Miles a lot. I've read a bit of Kamala Khan, so I had a good kind of basis for at least a couple of the characters.
Yeah, I was kind of lost because I've read one issue of Miles that we talked about last week,
yeah.
And that's it for this entire team.
Yeah. See, I knew who those two were. I very quickly got that we had Vision's daughter. In fact, I quite liked her in this issue, so she grew on me relatively quick.
Yeah, probably my favorite part of this issue was her.
I thought Riri was okay. Like, I thought the main, the main like group who were classed as the original champions. Like, I mostly was into those guys. A lot of the other like two teams that were on the other, like, because they split into like 3 teams. Like, the whole idea of this series is that Miss Marvel's in charge now, and she's like made it global. Like, we're going to send teams out and dispatch them around the planet to help with various things that the Avengers are too big for to deal with now. They're too busy dealing with Celestials and shit.
Yeah.
To deal with all this sort of stuff. Which is a fine concept for the book. There is a lot of characters. I feel like it does benefit from focusing mainly on the core like team, and I think it maybe would be wise to stick to that at least for a while, and maybe let us get to know some of the other characters maybe slowly, individually over time.
Yeah, I think the assumption here is that most people read the last volume of this, which with that team, and it's like, hey, you already know these. Let's just jump into all the new ones.
Yeah, I mean, Riri's actually not in the original team, but she felt the biggest character aside from them, though.
Yeah.
And then we have Amadeus Cho, who I never read Totally Awesome Hulk, but I knew that's what he was, so it wasn't surprising.
Yeah, I vaguely remembered that happening.
Yeah. I do like the double page spread where Spider-Man makes a parachute out of webbing. I thought that was amusing.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about the issue overall, though, given that you were kind of lost on the characters?
Kind of middling. I thought it was way too heavy on the dialogue.
That's fair.
There was a lot of dialogue, and when I haven't been able to, I don't know any of the characters. I haven't got a bead on any of the voices. Very few of them stood out as having a distinct voice. It kind of just felt like a lot of back and forth dialogue for me.
I felt like that for, like I say, not the main team. Like, see like all these side characters, especially because the first like few pages of the book are the 2 other teams on their missions.
Yeah,
that was probably where I was at my kind of lowest point with the book, because not only did I not know who these characters are, it was just kind of very typical saving people kind of stuff. It wasn't.
Yeah, I think there's probably only 2 scenes that really stand out for me in terms of, oh no, this is dialogue that sticks out above the rest.
It was Vision and Riri's talking about the kiss, right?
That's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other one is Miss Marvel and Miles.
Yeah,
in his dorm room, shall we say?
yeah. They've got like a flying base, and they're all living on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think those are the two standout scenes. That's probably the book at its best.
I agree, and I would hope that after issue 1 it can slow down a bit and, you know,
Hopefully, yeah.
be more of those. I liked it enough to want to read a bit more to see what it does in issue 2.
Yeah.
I have to admit my Marvel knowledge fails me a little bit because there's a big cliffhanger at the end of this issue. Someone is revealed to be behind Miles. I have no idea who this is. It's a big red dude with spiky hair, and he's got a cloak.
Yeah. I mean, it Mephisto maybe. I don't know.
Mephisto. That sounds like something this character might be called.
I don't think I've ever seen Mephisto, but I'm just thinking of it feels like the wish basey thing. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
Let me Google.
Champions issue 1 cliffhanger.
Mephisto to see if that. No, I think this is him.
Oh, it's Mephisto. Okay.
I think so. From the brief images I'm seeing,
it doesn't explain much to me outside of
no,
his name's Mephisto.
But I mean, I knew enough to get. Oh, I think this is Mephisto.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I'm gonna take the win on that one.
You take that one.
Yeah, it's better than I ever expected to do.
Yeah. Miles in a pretty iffy mood. It's worth mentioning because him and Cabal get into a fight because he's not really been a team player.
Yeah.
It's very different from his mood right now in his own comic, which isn't a big
jarring.
deal, but we just read that recently, so it did come off as a little bit different. I'm willing to see where this goes. I'm not completely sold on it, like that I'll be in for the ride.
Yeah, same.
But I do like some of the characters. I think Viv Vision. I think that's her name, Vivian.
Yes.
Her and Riri, I thought had a good scene, like you said, where she's like trying to ask it, because she's being normal, and Riri's like, why are you acting so normal? We're not going to talk about the kiss, which it doesn't even matter. I mean, if that was in a book before,
which I assume it was, I feel like there was an editor's note.
There probably was. I'm not on the page.
I feel like I read a lot of editor's notes this week.
Oh, there was, yeah. Champions 27. So Riri definitely showed up in that book at some point, even though she wasn't on the original team.
Yeah.
I don't even mind that I've not read that. It kind of works as there's enough in the scene to give me enough of the context of like.
Yeah, no, I agree. I got it.
Yeah, and her just kind of being like, why would it be normal? Is this about us pressing our lips together? And then Riri's like, oh, you have to like get permission to do that, or make sure the other person wants to kiss, and she's being so basically Spock about it and just acting very matter of fact, like, okay, it's fine, we'll just move on. And Riri's like, no, you can't just move on. There's awkwardness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That was
the enjoyable stuff.
So I need to see what it does with plot, because the first half of the book is just here's the premise, here's like the shit ton of characters that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And writing's okay. Art's okay too.
Yeah, art's all right. A nice expressive faces, which I think is important in a book like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some good eye work going on.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, that was Champions issue 1, which I guess we should rate. What are you feeling?
I'm gonna go with like a 6. I think it's all right, but I really struggle to get into it outside of those scenes.
I feel enough promise. Like I feel like once I get a handle on who the characters are, I might be into it. So, yeah, I'll go with 6.5. I'll go a nudge higher.
Fair enough.
I think it's solid, well enough done. It's just, yeah, it's going to have to like win me in a little bit. It's the sort of thing where it's hard with a team book like this, where there's so many characters, where a single character that I don't know can pull me in with some style in issue 1 and kind of do it in other ways. Whereas
team books are harder, yeah.
Team books are harder. But that will take us on to Conan the Barbarian issue 1. Jason Aaron writing, Mahmud Asrar. How do you say his last name? Asra. There you go. So this is the flagship Conan book now that Marvel have got the rights, and obviously Jason Aaron's one of the biggest writers, arguably the biggest they've got.
Yeah, probably.
So they've put him on the Conan book.
it's interesting how similarly they're treating Conan to Star Wars in terms of when they acquired the license. Here's the rollout of one book, then the second book next month, and then the revolving minis. Aaron on the lead title.
Which is funny though, because I feel like in terms of size, Star Wars is a lot bigger than Conan the Barbarian.
I think that goes without saying.
So I have never really seen or read much about Conan before. He's never really appealed to me, but I tried the issue one because I'm a sport. I'm a good sport.
I've never watched, read, consumed any Conan media, but I'm a fan of sword and sorcery fantasy stuff. So kind of my wheelhouse.
Unless we're talking about Conan, the late night talk show host. Seen a few clips of him.
Yeah, that would make this a very different book.
Arguably a better book.
Oh dear, you did not like it.
I think it was a bad book. I don't think it's poorly written. I don't think the art's great. It's just not for me. I have no interest in reading more of this.
Yeah, I kind of loved it.
I expected you might.
I think if you're into the sword and sorcery stuff, there's a lot to like.
Yeah, which I am very distinctly not really into the sword and sorcery stuff. I feel like there's ways to pull me into it, but I don't like anything about Conan's character thus far.
I'm intrigued. It's not himself that I'm like, oh, I want to see more of him, but I'm intrigued by the journey of, okay, so he's this now, and he's going to be this, this king later. Kind of, how do we get to that place?
Yeah, it's got 2 timelines in this issue. I expect it'll maybe continue, but part of me also thinks that if, because it sets up the villain, this witch that attacks him in his youth, that comes back in, present day when he's a king. Part of me also thinks that they could just continue from there, because now it's about the witch coming. Like, is there earlier adventures post that first meeting with the witch that's relevant to the book? There might be, there might not be. I'm not sure.
I assume yes.
Yeah,
but
I mean, for the sake of having the young Conan on his, his adventures.
I think it's a really easy way to sell the book going forward. Is we can do these things like both timelines. We can play with either or, depending on what story we want to tell us, which one's going to be the focus.
Yeah, it's one of these frustrating things where it's well written, the art looks good, but the entire time I was reading it, I was kind of forcing myself through it. After a few pages, I knew I wasn't into it, but
I liked it enough that I want to go and read some of the original short stories.
Knock yourself out. You're more than welcome. So Conan, like he's in this fight. We see he's in a bit of like I guess we'll call it gladiatorial combat.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. And this woman, this mysterious woman comes up and talks to him after, and they end up having sex. But during sex, it's just been kind of a trap. She turns out to be this awful, craggy old witch, and she wants to use Conan's blood to awaken her demon or her god. Conan fights his way out of it, because she raises all these past people who have died in this dungeon, and that gives your big action scene with the big 2-page layouts and stuff. And then he thinks he's gotten away, but and then in present day he's a king. There's been a battle. He's honouring the dead, on both sides of the conflict, even though his army won. And then he catches these children who are collecting dead bodies, and he's like, "Why are you doing this, children? What's going on?" And then they're like, "Oh, we're doing this because the blood will feed whatever the god's name was. I can't remember the demon's name."
I can't. That's what I need to get.
You can find
Azazel.
It. Azazel. There you go.
Razazel even.
Razazel. Yes.
Yeah.
So. And then the witch shows up at the end, and it's like, he's been grabbed again, and it's like, no, everything's been building to this your whole life. You've been marked since that day. Evil's happening. So that's the gist of the book.
I was really into it. I thought the art was fantastic for this book.
Yeah, that's good.
Like I said, it made me want to go and read other Conan work, because there's a lot of names of places and stuff in here that I'm like, okay, I want to know more.
Yeah, again, it's hard for me to talk about because it ultimately just comes down to I'm just not into this world.
Yeah, I think objectively you agree it's a well-written,
yeah,
well-drawn book. It just doesn't work for you.
Yeah, there's no spark. I'm not feeling anything.
I mean, sometimes that happens.
So yes, I don't have any hot takes in terms of critiques. It's just
no, you didn't hate it, but
Yeah, it's just not for me. Which makes rating it a really weird thing because it feels really like what do you? If I'm rating it, I'll go with a fair 7. I think it's a good book because it's well written and it has good art, but I can't go any higher than that because I didn't like reading it.
Fair enough.
I think that is as generous as I can go
No,
on
that is
something
pretty
I didn't
generous.
like.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with an 8.5. I think it was a very strong first issue.
That's fair. So you'll be covering that on your own. I will not be reading any more of these, but we kind of expected that. Let's be honest.
Yeah, we did. But
this is not a shock.
you thought you'd give it a try.
Yes, don't say I don't give things tries. I do.
Yeah, see if he still does that in a year's time.
So moving on, it depends what licenses they get. If they get Lord of the Rings as a license, I ain't even trying that book.
Oh, come on.
I'll buy 10 copies just to burn them. Next up, I won't. That's stupid because they still get the money. They don't care that I've burned them.
I want you to buy 10 copies and burn them. Do it.
No. I'd rather like find the chain where the money goes back to them and burn their money, so that they think it's sold less. No, there's what I'll do. I'll hack into all the comic stores and delete all their orders. I'll be like, no orders.
I mean, just steal the books. Just steal them and burn them. And they might get money.
That's common thievery. I'm an exceptional thief. That was a Die Hard reference in case anyone didn't get it.
Yeah.
When Holly calls Hans you're nothing but a common thief, and he goes, I am an exceptional thief.
It's true.
Good line. Anyway, that'll take us on to The Man Without Fear, issue 1, written by Jed McKay and art by Danilo Beyruth. This is the first part of a 5-issue, weekly series that is kind of bridging the gap between the old Daredevil series, where Daredevil got in a pretty bad shape before it ended, to the point where I think they thought he was dead, but he's clearly still just like in a coma and like on life support, and as you do. And this is, presumably going to deal with that, and then issue 1 of Zdarsky's series will probably, start with him awake and ground running.
Well, I mean, it's notable that that's still classified solicit-wise in terms of what the book is about.
If they want to shock me and tell me that he does actually die and someone else becomes Daredevil, like that won't shock me. Like I feel like that's a very real possibility.
It is a possibility at this stage, in that they're withholding the information for so long, because this is going up till I think the week before that book. Yeah, so they're not going to tell us anything till exceptionally close to that book's launch.
And potentially, I mean, let's say he dies at the end of this mini. They don't have to tell us who it's going to be in this book. That could just be like issue 1. Like we'll see someone in a mask, and then the end of issue 1. I'm thinking of issue 1 of the Stephanie Brown Batgirl series, where you see Batgirl doing stuff and you don't know who it is, and then there's a whole splash page where she takes off the mask and it's like, I'm Stephanie Brown, and it's like a whole big moment. I could see that being a thing. So that said, I have no interest in reading the next 4 issues of this. I don't know how you feel.
I really liked the first page.
Sure. But see, as soon as I realised this was going to be like all in Matt's head while he's in a coma, I add to that, I wasn't necessarily feeling the art that much. It felt like, I don't know, something like 5 issues that could just be 1 issue.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's any point in reading the next few. Yeah,
because I got to the end. I mean, it was especially when I realised the cliffhanger was going to be still inside his head. Like, he's battling his inner demons, and it's not like he's woken up and there's more story after that. It's just, no, we're going to do 5 issues of this in his head as Foggy's, like, by his side at the hospital, and I'm just like, I don't want to read this.
Yeah. Like I said, I thought the first page was really stylish. It's, feeling like running to the hospital and trying to get up there, and, with the title coming up.
Yeah.
I was into it, and then dialogue started, and then we went inside Matt's head, and I was like, okay, kind of out.
Yeah, I'm just not interested in 5 issues of this as a concept.
Yeah, me either.
This can be fine as 1 issue in an ongoing series, especially if it's done well. But dragging this out over a 5-issue arc, where it's an excuse to show a lot of villains, it's an excuse to show him in different costumes. You see him in his, his classic costumes, the yellow, the red, the recent black one, even the suit that he had in Mark Waid's run at the end. You see all these different costumes.
Yeah, it feels like, hey, here's an excuse to sell 5 issues.
It does. It feels like a bit of a cash grab to me.
That'll make a nice trade as well.
That's what it feels like. It generally feels like that. I don't really see the merit in this as a book.
No, maybe we're wrong. Maybe justify itself by the end, but as of right now, I don't see how.
Yeah, I mean, his finger does twitch at the end. The last panel's his finger twitching. I don't read this as him waking up, though. I read this as a sign that he's going to wake up, not that he's waking up now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I just think as a concept, it feels very just filler.
It does, yeah.
So,
and I like it feels like, well, there's only a month without, it's a month without Daredevil. I'm sure you could have lived.
Yeah. I feel like whatever this book's going to do, you could have done in about 3 pages of the first issue of the next one.
Probably.
Yeah. I don't feel like I need to read this to like go into issue 1 of Zdarsky's series. Like,
no, which
aware.
is kind of the main reason we read this, where we were like, oh, maybe this feels like it's going to bridge the gap in terms of the way it was described. Having read this, probably not.
Yeah, but it feels unnecessary. I don't recommend it. But hey, so we should rate it, I suppose. What are you giving it?
I'll give it 4.
Yeah, I'll agree with the 4. I think 4's about 1 point, because it's not like terrible. Like, it just feels really redundant.
It's readable.
Yeah,
it's just pointless. The art's a bit on the art's pretty what's dragging it down for me.
Well, that's the thing. The art's not like terrible either. It's just kind of like the art's like a 5 or a 6 on its own, right?
Mm.
And then the feeling of pointlessness just kind of drags it down. It's just like ultimately you have this thing that's not the worst thing ever. Actually, I saw someone tweet out. I think it was called U.S. War Machine. It was a comic book from Marvel. I don't know when. I'm going to guess late 90s, maybe early 2000s. It was the second volume of this book, but someone posted some pages, and the art was like computer CG, like PS1 level art that they'd done on a computer, and they had the whole comic book, and that was the art, and it's literally the worst comic book art I've ever seen in my life.
I am fascinated by that as an experiment. I want to read it, but I'm fascinated.
This is the thing. I feel like now, if you think of what you get in PS4 now, I feel like you could actually do this, and it would probably, I mean, maybe not rival actual comic book art, but it would at least be interesting enough to look at. This is like the period of where cutscenes in games just look like garbage, and you go back and you kind of laugh at them because they look so stupid.
Triangles everywhere.
Yeah, all the face look really round and glossy because it has that kind of thing to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that'll take us on to Wolverine: The Long Night, issue 1. Benjamin Percy writing, Marcio Takara on the art. This is the miniseries again. I'm not sure how many issues this is though. Do we know?
I don't.
Yeah.
Off the top of it, I want to say 6, but I'm not actually sure on that.
We'll find out. So this is based on a podcast that was written by Benjamin Percy. We know Benjamin Percy well from DC podcast. He did Green Arrow for a long time, did a short Nightwing stint as well. And you've listened to the podcast, right?
I have. It's one. I can't remember the service it comes out on. One of the podcasts. It comes out early on there.
Sure.
And then they release it later for free. So anyone can listen to the full season 1 now for free.
Right.
Season 2 is coming in a couple of months, I believe.
So you can't speculate on plot because you know what's going to happen.
I do, yes. It's 5 issues, by the way.
5 issues, cool. So I didn't know what to expect from this. I was like, okay, what's this about? I mean, I know it's Wolverine, but like,
I was really intrigued as to how they were going to adapt it because obviously it's written originally with the audio only format in mind.
Yeah,
so
I did notice in this there's a lot of people telling stories about what's happened in the past.
Yeah, a lot of it is done interview form, and also there's 2 agents here, and a lot of the podcast is they'll go their own separate ways and do some interviews and do some digging around, and then they'll come back together and tell each other what they discovered that day. Right.
Yeah. I could totally see some of that kind of bleeding into this in terms of how it's told.
Yeah, which does work in that format.
Yeah, I did quite like this though. I felt like the way it was handling this is that it's almost not in the weirder stuff, but just in this. I was just going to say it's kind of like Twin Peaks in the sense that you've got the FBI coming to town because some sort of gruesome murders happened, but the twist here is that it's very clearly at least implied that Wolverine's behind the killings, and they're in Alaska. So the longest night kind of relates to that because obviously in Alaska when it's winter, middle of winter, you get this absurdly long nights. In fact, I think there's even periods of time when there's no daylight, given where they are. So you have that, you have the agents asking around, and it's mostly like, you know, they talk to a fisherman about it, they talk to the local police about what's going on, and then they eventually talk to this guy who works on one of the boats, who actually finally tells a story about Logan specifically. But I like the investigation nature of it. I like the idea of like the mystery of like, is it actually Wolverine? I mean, he's clearly been here, he's clearly around,
he's clearly involved in some capacity.
I'm assuming that he's going to come out looking better and not like a complete serial killer by the end of this. And then there's the added mystery of there was drugs on the boat, but those were conveniently missing by the time the FBI got to town. And all these other little elements. I'll be getting a feel for the town. Like I feel what I like about it the most is I feel the town. I'm liking the agents questioning things. It's got a bit of atmosphere.
I'm really intrigued because obviously this is it was 10 episodes. And they were all very distinct in having, you know, okay, that's what this episode was. And this is only 5 issues. So I'm intrigued to see how that condenses down.
Would you say this parallels like the first 2 episodes or 1 episode? Or?
It feels more like what I remember from the first one.
Okay. Yeah, I was mostly into it though. I think the art is pretty decent. There's some nice pages. There's some pages that I thought were a bit rougher. I thought the pages where they were talking to the sheriff, I thought were a little bit weaker.
That's fair. I really like the first time that they show Logan just Logan from behind.
Oh sure, yeah. You just got, you know, you see the hair and you know it's him, but
but I thought it was a really really great mood on the panel.
Actually, my favourite pages art-wise were probably the first story the fisherman tells about finding the boat at night, because I thought that was very atmospheric.
It was, yeah.
Just, you know, it's very dark, but there's the lights in the boats, and they're searching the boats. I thought that had the nice sense of atmosphere it drew me in right at the start. It drew me in with a little bit of pizzazzle.
I will say, like I said, I was a little concerned about how this would translate, given how it was just the relaying conversations. I was intrigued to see, would he adapt that and change it rather than just have the back and forth? Would we see their investigation a little bit more directly? Doesn't seem like that's going to be. It seems to be more direct than I thought it might. I think there are points where I can see maybe this will get a little tedious by the end of the book of that back and forth. But I think so far it's okay.
I like it. I like it because it feels different to most superhero comics. I'm liking how it feels like a complete, like, you know, it's a thriller. It's a special agents come to town to investigate murders.
It's very much a mystery.
Logan's just one of the characters that happens to be implicated.
All I will say is it gets into some Percy trademark stuff later on because Percy can't help himself. Okay,
I mean, it's going to get weird. Maybe comparing it to Twin Peaks was more apt than maybe I thought it was at first. Yeah. No, so I like learning about the town and the characters and just I like the rookie cop who's kind of seeming kind of fishy right now, but him, like,
he's kind of excited to just stuff to be happening. It's like, oh, murders.
He's almost ruining the investigation at one point. Because he's opening his mouth in front of the witness. It's like, no, shut up, stop talking.
This is quite, it's a small town. Everyone knows each other. He's like, oh yeah, that's just Bob. It's fine. Whereas they're like, no, suspects.
Yeah. So I'm into it so far. I'm into the murder mystery element. So,
if that's what you're into, I suspect you'll enjoy this story quite a bit.
What are you rating it?
I give this an 8.
I'd agree with that. I think I know we've agreed in, well, I went 0.5 different in the first one, but I think I'd give this an 8. Do you know what it is? I'm almost actually happy it doesn't just feel like a typical Wolverine story. I'm happy that it's this different thing where he's just kind of a part of it.
Wolverine's in the title, and there's a lot surrounding him, but he's not the focus. He's not the main character. We're not following him.
No, I like that. I'm liking the focus of this. So yeah, that's Wolverine the Long Night, which will take us on to the rest of the books. Uncanny X-Men issue 8. Matthew Rosenberg, Kelly Thompson, and Ed Brisson writing with R.B. Silva on the art. So we're actually only 2 away now from the final of this arc. I guess it went in quick because we binged the first 7. Like, you know,
or it went in quick because it was weekly.
Yeah, but it went even quicker for me because I binged 1 to 7 last week.
I read it mostly weekly. I had to catch up on a couple here or there, but mostly weekly.
Yes. So this issue, obviously we had the young X-Men still trapped in the Age of Apocalypse, which is inside Legion's
Head,
mind. Yes.
kind of. Yeah.
And Bishop, when he learns about this, is like, "Oh, I've been in there. That's where they are." And he goes, "One of my favorite things about this issue actually is when he does go into because we cut back out to the real world. Basically inside we're on the cliffhanger where Armor's going to kill X-Man, and then we come to the real world and the fight's going on and they're dealing with everything. Where did those people go? What's happening?" And Bishop, when he comes in to rescue them, eventually he gets Psylocke, I think it is, to put him inside. They're like, "Man, like, where have you been? You've been stranded in here for years. Why did you abandon us?" And he's like, "It's been 5 minutes." And I went, "Oh shit, they can't be mad at him now. There's a time difference."
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. I also like that. Let me get the roll call page.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
I need the roll call page. Glob. I like that when they come back out into the real world, he's the one who's like, "I didn't want to be like this again, though," because he was like a Ghost Rider looking badass guy.
He was kind of into it.
Yeah, but he comes back out here and he's back to being a pink blob, and he's like, "I kind of like being like that." I mean, we'll see how everyone else reacts to it, but at least he was like, I kind of liked who I was in there, even if it was, this hellish world. It was all terrible. So
I have a question. I think this could have been in the last issue, but I kind of just forgot to mention it. When did Magneto become Gandalf?
Oh yeah, he's been that since he showed up in this book.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's got a beard now. That's the thing.
He just, it's like they went, "Screw it, Ian McKellen. Let's just do him Gandalf."
They're crossing over.
That is really what it felt like when he first showed up. And obviously I forgot to mention it last week. We had a lot of stuff to talk about with the book as a whole. But yeah, I don't know when that happened. I'm not sure I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, whatever. I'm not like, neither here nor there. That was making me think of X-Men Red a little bit. Talking about Magneto, because I never talked about it in depth in the last. Because obviously it was done, it was finished before.
Yes.
We came. But a lot of the final fight, because they were fighting a telepath, is like all the X-Men ended up wearing Magneto helmets to deal with it. It was a fun scene. But so yeah, so we have Magneto, who, despite the fact that X-Man goes down and his control isn't there, because he's missing. He's in Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Magneto's refusing to stop fighting. He's like, no, I'm still going to do this. So Storm has to blast them to shit, which is fun. It does what it is. And we have the other characters fighting and all that. The action's pretty good. The art's pretty decent in this issue. Obviously, it's been very up and down because it's a weekly book.
Yeah. Also, I will say, this issue got my biggest laugh of the book yet.
Oh, go on.
It was a certain reference to a Marvel movie in the last year.
You're gonna have to remind me. I don't remember it.
Okay, it's as the kids are coming out of the Age of Apocalypse stuff, and it's Glob as Ghost Rider, and he's like, Pixie. Yeah. I don't feel so.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
As soon as you mentioned the scene, I remembered what the line was.
Yeah, I got a good chuckle out of that.
Yeah. Also, I did like the conflict with Apocalypse, where as soon as Apocalypse learns that if they just kill Legion, it means X-Man's gone forever. He's like, "I'm going to kill him," so the X-Men have to hold him off. Yeah. Because he's all like, we're not here to conflict with each other. Kitty's kind of sticking up for him. Well, not sticking up for him, but like, hey guys, he was held captive too. He's not the villain here.
Yeah, and I guess the implication at the end is whether or not X-Man has kind of taken over inside Legion, right?
Yeah, that's the big thing, because the kids come out and Legion goes into his own head and he's going to defeat him, but it seems like
having a little psychic battle.
Yeah, because he does the whole "We Are Legion" thing, and he brings versions of all the heroes of Marvel and whatnot to help him fight. Yeah. But at the end, it looks like X-Man's taken over, and it looks, because he's got the streak in his hair. Is the main kind of tell sign, and it also feels like he might have I mean, he was already a powerful telepath anyway, I think, but I wonder if he has an amplification from David now, because he has.
I would assume so.
Yeah, you would think, because it has his body. So that's the big cliffhanger we leave on. I enjoyed this issue well enough, actually. It's probably one of my favourite issues of the 8.
I think it probably is my favourite issue of the book so far.
I like the conflict. I like that Kitty was back with the main team.
Yeah.
The other thing is, the little plot point we should mention is Beast catches or knows that the one young X-Man who was left behind, and who's the one I know the least because he's been left behind. Like the other four, I'm getting to know because they're they're together. Like Pixie, I'm learning a little bit. The Rock Slide, is that the big guy's name?
That sounds about right.
We got Armor, and we got
Blob.
Glob, yes. So I'm getting a feel for those characters. They're growing on me. Like I didn't really know much about them when I started this. They're kind of growing on me a little bit. The fifth one who was left behind in the med bay though, I don't know him at all.
No, we've not really heard anything.
Yeah, but he apparently leaked the vaccine or the serum that could potentially wipe out the mutant gene. And not the mutant gene Grey, the mutant gene, just to be specific. And the Beast is confronting him about it. So that's obviously something that I feel it's setting up. Do you know what's funny? We were talking between episodes about all these Age of X-Man minis and one-shots that are coming up. And I didn't really have any interest in reading them because I was like, I want to read Uncanny, but like I feel like all these extra minis feel a bit much.
Feels excessive.
The one thing that's made me question that thought is that the main team in the Uncanny X-Men, because it's going to be Cyclops and Logan and a bunch of others. They revealed that recently. Most of the characters that we're seeing now are going to be like divvied up amongst all those minis. They're all going to be. I don't know if they're in the Age of Apocalypse or if they're in other places that are X-Men related.
So those minis will essentially be the continuation of this first arc.
Of some of it, yeah, of these characters seemingly.
Right.
Because Kitty's in one for sure.
Well, I want to read the Kitty one.
Yeah, I like Kitty too. That makes me a lot more. I mean, I'm still resistant, but it makes me a lot more curious to check them out at least.
Yeah, I think we'll probably at least try them at this point.
Because it sounds to me from seeing that basically all of these X-Men are taken somewhere that no one knows where they go with X-Man, and Cyclops coming back and that team are basically here's what's left to be X-Men whilst they're gone, and
that makes sense.
So that's Uncanny, and then all the X-Man minis are where all the others went. So hopefully some of them are good.
Yeah, that would be nice.
This is the thing. I like a lot of these characters. I like Nightcrawler. I like Kitty.
I don't know what any of the teams are like on any are any of these three writers following across to any of those minis. Do you happen to know?
You would think so. Do you know what? Let's get the solicits up for February.
Or
maybe March. I'll look at March. Marvel solicitations March. There you go.
Yeah, I'm on some now. So the Marvelous X-Men is not any of those. Prisoner X is not any of these. Next Gen is Ed Brisson.
What's interesting to me is that Uncanny X-Men 13 and 14 is just Matthew Rosenberg writing, which is actually cool because I liked his Jean Grey mini, The Resurrection of Jean Grey. So that makes me feel quite positive about Uncanny after this 10-issue arc.
I am seeing some names I recognise. Apocalypse and the Extracts is Tim Seeley.
Oh, cool. All right.
It does look, as far as I can see, the only one that follows on in terms of writers is the one that Ed Brisson is doing.
Yeah, Vita Ayala's on one of them.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the name.
Yeah. I think they did a really good Supergirl issue. That was like a one-shot Supergirl issue, like issue 18 or 19. That was like a standalone story that was quite good.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
I think that was them. But yeah, as for the rest of them, I don't know a lot of these names, so we'll just try them, I guess.
Yeah, the one that Brisson's doing seems to be following Glob and the others.
Okay.
So that's cool.
Yeah, that's next gen. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably try them.
Yeah. It looked like a lot, but I mean,
it still feels like a lot looking at them all here when there's like 6 of them, 7.
Because there's weeks where there's 2 of them at the same time after they start piling up a little bit.
Yeah.
But hey ho. But I do kind of want to see where some of these characters go. If the books are bad, they're bad. We'll drop them. But
yeah, but willing to try.
Yeah. So what we rating Uncanny issue 8?
I think I'm gonna give it a 7 personally.
Yeah. I'll agree with a 7. I was tempted to go 7.5, but I'll agree with the 7. Probably my favourite issue of the book so far, though.
Yeah, mine too.
And Matthew Rosenberg been the one to stick around afterwards. Whether or not it's going to be rotating between arcs or if he's just the writer going forward.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've not really been keeping up with the news on it.
Yeah, but we'll see. So that's Uncanny X-Men issue 8. That'll take us on to the Immortal Hulk issue 11. Ewing and Joe Bennett on this book.
Do you know something I think is really interesting about this book that I don't think we really spoke about? It doesn't do recap pages. Because it always has the quote at the start.
Actually, on that subject, I want to make a final little complaint about Man Without Fear. The recap page was at the end. That's not very useful.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I'm like, pop that, and because I read it and I was like, this didn't ruin anything from this issue. That would have been very helpful at the start.
I know. Don't be dicks. You're right. To the book's credit, I always feel like I know exactly what happened because it was very memorable.
I do too, because it's so good. Yeah. But it seems, I think it was just like we were praising the recap pages.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it had them, but hey. So Hulk's in hell with the reporter, and eventually, like, I do like that General Ross comes up and he's like, "You're not dead, or are you?" And I like that because, I mean, that kind of just happened in Captain America, like 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. So that was a nice touch because obviously Hulk is, attached to General Ross as a character. Like,
So someone in the editorial department is doing a good job.
Yeah. So that was a neat touch, and he actually turns into like a demonic red Hulk, and they have a bit of a fight. That's where we get our fight, and it's like Hulk like letting his anger out. I like the conversation between Hulk and the reporter where Hulk kind of respects that she doesn't like fear anger the way that a lot of people do. She respects that it's useful. Yeah,
definitely.
I like that bit.
I love the when she's seeing like family members who, and she's like, "Oh, I can talk to them," and Hulk's just like, "They're dead. Ignore them."
Yeah.
And the horror that comes from that is quite effective.
I think what I liked about it though is when she's talking about anger, it's basically it's that thing I think we hear about a lot more, is the idea that in an unequal world that women tend to be looked down upon a lot more for getting angry, whereas men, it's accepted that men get angry sometimes and that's okay, but if a woman gets angry, they're seen as being hysterical. And
she puts like, "Hey, you get angry," and they bend over backwards to try and help you out.
Yeah, you're on the Avengers 2 weeks later somehow.
Yeah. He was like, "Oh, they shot me into space." It's like, yeah, into space, not just shot.
Yeah. So it's kind of dealing with some issues like that, and I kind of appreciated that. I like that's the appeal for her, is that if she becomes something like a Hulk, that's the appeal to her, is that it kind of makes the world accept her anger in a way. And I like, because I feel like up until now it's not really necessarily been hinting at that as much, but I like that kind of reveal because I think her character motivation, going back to that last issue when she said, "I want to be like you," or 2 issues ago, whenever that was.
Yeah.
I actually love that response now, that question,
because it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I think the motivation in retrospect has made it even better. So I like that. This issue gets very philosophical. There's a lot of talk about these pages where it cuts to like
black and white.
Cities are being destroyed. I need to get to that last page to actually bring up some of the terminology. But it starts talking about religious imagery. Where are we? There's a lot of talk about God and the devil.
Yeah, the tree of life, the crown above all things.
Yeah,
and then the opposite of that.
The Cabal, the opposite side has a shadow, and it's a lot of things we've been talking about this book up until now have been reflections and the darker side and the Jekyll and
it is the idea of God versus Satan, and it's kind of like, well, which one is Hulk?
Yeah,
is that is it Banner and Hulk are God and Satan, or is it Hulk and Banner are one, and then villains are the other?
And I think ultimately that's probably going to be the end result, unless he wants to leave it ambiguous, which he might. But I think that's ultimately kind of the end result, is the idea that Banner's always seen Hulk as this thing. But I mean, that's a common Hulk story, right? Is that he accepts that Hulk does some good and is useful and whatnot. But you see, like, Hulk is getting more vengeful and rageful as this goes. He's beating Red Hulk to a bloody pulp. This fake Red
I
Hulk.
love when he just he gouges the eyes and just rips him in half.
Yeah, that page where he rips him in half is great. And the reporter's like, "Hey, stop! You've done it. He's beat. He's dead. Throw in the towel.
Yeah.
It's over." And he's just Hulk kill everything.
Just raging, yeah.
And that's when the thing that appears to be his father, although I'm not necessarily thinking it is his father, like,
Not in this place.
But he's basically like, Hulk's in this, the green light, and it seems like it's trying to separate Hulk from him. Like, that's what it's trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, the final line in that the philosophical font speech is, so the father says, believe me, son, you're better off without him. And then the final line says, and some say there are two.
Yeah, I wonder, like, does he literally get separated from Hulk? And if he does he consciously have to make the choice to try and get him back?
Yeah, potentially. It's a fascinating story setting up here.
Yeah, no, it was really good. The black and white stuff was good. The art's typically been good from Joe Bennett. The horror imagery is there. There's also a scene in the middle we didn't mention with Absorbing Man still around, and is it Puck comes and helps him?
I think so, yeah, because they have a joke about where the name comes from.
Yeah, not super familiar with Puck. Puck's I've heard of him, but like I don't really know anything about him.
Yeah, me either.
But yeah, so he's there to help Absorbing Man. Whether or not he actually
allegedly,
yeah, whether or not he's got like just his own agenda, and he's just he's a means to an end as opposed to actually wanting to help him is another matter. But so I set up some plot stuff for the next issue. But as per usual, the book's really good.
It is, yeah.
One of the best Marvel books there is right now.
Yeah,
I can't really fault much about it.
So consistent.
Yeah. Like I say, I thought this issue presented some interesting ideas, both in terms of some character, because the reporter's a new character for this series. Let's think she is. People can correct me if I'm wrong.
As far as we know.
Yeah. And then the philosophical stuff was also very interesting. So, and the imagery was, because we had nuclear bombs going off, we had all these things, nothing alien to Hulk, but it gave it this biblical feel, which ties into
we're literally in hell.
Yeah, but it ties into the themes, and it makes me think that this isn't really hell. This is more about because the philosophical stuff's all talking about how like the bottom of the sphere is the shadow. That's the hell, because it's the bottom part. And,
but it's okay. Can we get up to the top?
Yeah. So, Immortal Hulk 11, really good. What are you giving it?
8.5.
8.5, I agree. We're agreeing too much on these books.
We are. I don't like this. Let's go back to the DC show.
We need to divert a bit more. No, next up we have Tony Stark Iron Man issue 7, Dan Slott writing, Jean Cabal on art. This is different from some of the others because we did catch up on this.
You caught up on this. I've been reading.
Fair. But we haven't talked about this before. So this is where I reveal a bit of a twist.
Okay, go on.
I didn't catch up on it. I read 3 issues and said I didn't want to.
Fair enough.
It's not the worst thing ever. Like, I didn't hate the first 3 issues. Like, I like some of the ideas at play. I like was it Jakarta,
Jacosta,
the AI robot who is dealing with these needs of wanting to become human, and like Tony's like rebuilt himself, so he's wondering, does he still have a soul because he's essentially a backup. Rhodey's got PTSD from dying in Civil War 2.
Yeah.
Like, these are all great ideas. I wasn't loving reading the book that much.
I actually agree. I think if I was binging this, I probably wouldn't have got through it. I think it's always just felt a little bit off from the first issue, where I like it in theory. It just doesn't feel right when I'm reading it.
Yeah. I think Slott. And what's funny is I've seen online people tend to prefer this more than his Fantastic Four, which is interesting to me, because I feel like the tone of this feels a little bit off for what I feel like I want from it.
I agree. I think I will say this issue is probably the best one yet, quite comfortably.
Nice.
So maybe the book's settling in.
I looked at what issue 4 was, and it was like a date between Tony and like Wasp, and I was like, you know what, like
that one was probably my second favorite issue.
Oh really?
A lot of banter in that one that kind of felt a lot more natural. compared to the first few issues.
That's fair. I guess the concepts in this, I wish it was more cerebral.
I get that.
I want the Alex Garland version of this, not this light-hearted, jokey version. You know?
Yeah.
It's just kind of how I felt when I was reading it, and we're reading so many damn books that I was like, you know what, it's fine to cut one. Like I've cut up in so much. This one's going.
I get that.
This one's going. But yeah, what was issue 7 then? You can talk about issue 7.
Issue 7. This current arc is there's kind of like an AI world that Tony's created. It's kind of think Ready Player One.
Yeah, I got to the start of that stuff in issue 3. I think that was like they were testing it and
right. Yeah, so that's gone public. The Escape is what it's called. And people are playing it, but naturally something's gone wrong, right? There's something in there that's not listening to override commands. It's hunting down people and blocking them out, all that sort of stuff. And basically, Tony's mother gets stuck in there. You know, she like goes into like a coma almost, essentially. Like her mind is stuck in there, and they can't risk pulling the body out without injuring her. She's kind of been kidnapped by this being who's got her in a room at the end, inside the VR to kind of not torture necessarily, but like use for information. And I believe Tony's dad shows up and is his biological. I think the program was supposed to get his mother, and so he gets there and it's like, well, who's this? And it's like, well, this is Tony's mother. And it's like, I mean, technically yes, biologically, right? But not who we meant to get. And then his actual mother does show up as well. Yeah, it's Howard Stark. The version of Howard Stark is there saying this. So some interesting stuff going on there. There's the real world stuff. Has Tony has to get into the armor suit. Has to convince Friday to go back into the suit as his AI, which I think is probably where the book's been its most interesting. Is the AI rights stuff.
No, I agree. I think Jacosta's stuff.
Yeah. There's more of that in here as well. Because did you get to the stuff where she was using the image inducer and stuff like that?
I think it was just starting. Like she was sort of going to sleep with it on at the end of issue 3. That was kind of
yeah. There was a great there was a really strong issue after that to do with that stuff.
All the best issues were after I stopped reading. Okay.
It pretty much was. The book has been getting better. I will definitely say that. It's still not like amazing. It's still like something's a bit off, but it's been getting better. I'm hoping it's finding its groove. But yeah, this here with convincing Friday to go back into the suit, she really doesn't want to, and it's ultimately is like, okay, fine, as long you better let me straight back out when we're done here. But it's kind of uncomfortable for him to ask this. It's intentionally uncomfortable to read. And then Jacosta's trying to go and convince her robot boyfriend or ex-boyfriend to go be a hero, because he's got I think it was a hacked like a hacked headset essentially, so he can get into the thing and not be tripped up by all of the stuff that's going on. And she's running out of power, I think it is, so that is why she's dying. So well, not dying, but like going to be unconscious. And she's like, her last words are like, yeah, come on, please go be a hero. So that's presumably where we're going next. And so that we see that so Tony's flying to where this stuff's all seemingly taking place in the real world, all these power surges and whatnot. It's in New Jersey, I think, because there's some jokes about it being just New Jersey, right?
I should do, yeah.
Yeah. And you get all these things where it's the people with the Iron Man, the VR masks that they're using are like an Iron Man mask. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, no, that we're in them issue 3.
Yeah, and so it's all these people running around the streets with like guns and stuff, thinking that they're in a Western or they're in a war thing or wherever they are, and it's just causing chaos. And that's how the issue ends.
Okay. I mean, if you keep giving it more and more praise, I might double back. But
yeah, I'm not prepared to say, oh, you should definitely double back. Like I said, it's been getting better. It's finding a groove as it goes.
I think every time I've tried to read an Iron Man book, that's it's not. I mean, it's fine when he's on a team. I find that like without it being Robert Downey Jr., the written
Loses some of the
character,
charm.
yeah, the written character doesn't have the same charm. Anything I've tried to read an Iron Man book, I felt that way. It's fine when it's on the Avengers and he's one of an ensemble, because it's like it doesn't matter that he's not grabbing me completely on his own. The armor's cool; he can have cool action scenes.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel can punch him for flirting every so often, and that'll be fine. But hey, and I know I'm upsetting Iron Man fans when I say that without Robert Downey Jr., it's not that interesting. But
I typically agree. This is one of the weaker books I've been reading. Like, I'm going to give this issue a 7, but that's easily the highest I've given it an issue yet.
All right. Well, I mean, I've read 3. It would be that hard to catch up if it keeps getting better. But right now, I wasn't feeling it.
I get that.
So we'll move on next then to Mr. and Mrs. X. Issue 7, this is Kelly Thompson writing with Valerio Shitty, or Shitty, I'll say. Shitty. Very unfortunate name. Probably not where Valerio's from, but in the English-speaking world, unfortunate name. So this was one that we caught up on for this because we like Kelly Thompson's West Coast Avengers. So, and I think we're both of the opinion that we really don't care about Gambit.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily care that much about Rogue either. I don't dislike her.
Rogue's inherently a bit more likable.
So, before we get to this issue, because we both read this just over the last week, I will say I enjoy it. I think the writing's there. It does have to get over the fact that it's Gambit in Rogue. Which is like my least favorite part about it, is that's who this is about. But there is fun dialogue. There's when Deadpool's involved, and I don't even like Deadpool that much, but when he's there with those two, like the dialogue's fun. It is.
Whenever there's bits with them interacting with like Kitty.
Yeah, that stuff's good. I think one of the things this book did in the first issue to win me over is that every other character in the book seems to also hate Gambit, and they're all like, "Really, you're marrying Gambit? Really?"
Yeah, that's been a recurring thing. Even in issue, I think it was 6, was the one shot between arcs.
Yeah, the wedding, the housewarming party.
And Gambit's dad shows up, and Rogue's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't invite you. It was all Gambit's fault." and he's like, "Yeah, I bet it was."
Yeah, I mean, if they keep treating Gambit like he's the worst,
I can get into that.
I can get into that a little bit. Yeah. So you told me, because you read issue 1 before I did, and you said there was a family connection between characters that you didn't know about.
Yeah, well, no, because I'm sure we said this. Pretty much my only exposure really to X-Men is the movies, and then I've read Whedon's Astonishing X-Men.
Yeah, I've read a bit more than that. I've read all of Bendis' All New and Uncanny. I read Jason Aaron's Wolverine the X-Men. And yeah, I've dabbled here. Like All New Wolverine is not really X-Men specifically, but I've read enough of the world where I don't feel like I'm completely lost on X-Men. But so I knew that Mystique, like her son was Nightcrawler, and I think Azazel is the dad, the red one who can teleport. Who I don't know much about, but he was in First Class.
Yeah.
I knew about this. Out of nowhere, in this book, now it turns out she's adopted, but Rogue does refer to Nightcrawler as her brother, and I went, wait, what?
At first, I thought, is this just a figure of speech?
Yeah, because they both grew up in the mansion, the X-Men, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh no.
And then Mystique shows up, and she calls her mum. Like, Rogue calls Mystique mum, and I went, okay, there's a whole backstory here that I don't know about. What's going on?
This is just us.
Yes, this is just us, but this was like, wait, what?
Yeah, because like I said, I read this before you, and I was like, there's stuff in this that I had no idea about. I was like, I don't know if you know these or not. No, I'm really intrigued to see if you did.
This was genuinely shocking to me that Mystique is Rogue's mother. I had no idea. Adopted mother, sure, but still, I had no idea. So, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's fine. I know this now. It's knowledge that'll be filed away and it'll be relevant when I need it.
What's funny is that obviously the actual wedding part happened in it was X-Men Gold wedding special or whatever it was. So we have like stuff set before that where they've decided they're going to marry, and it's all the preparation on the day that's kind of scrambled. and then we kind of skip over the actual wedding part. But it was okay. It kind of worked though. I never feel like I was missing it because I mean, wedding ceremonies are wedding ceremonies. I don't, you know what happens.
I will say, I think issue 1 might have been my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, all the wedding preparation stuff with all the other.
Because with all the characters.
I think that helped playing off of all these other characters.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I actually kind of liked issue 6 a lot, which again, same kind of idea.
6 was pretty good, yeah. But the same idea, right?
I didn't dislike the other issues though. Like it suffers a bit because I don't really know a whole lot about the Shire Empire, which is a big part of the plot when it's all happening. Luckily, the chemistry between the characters and Deadpool, who's kind of there for most of it, is mostly solid. Like it was enough to keep me reading. It was enough to keep me invested. The fun dialogue that Kelly Thompson brings. Obviously, I'm liking West Coast Avengers more than this, but like her writing is kind of like overshining the fact that I don't really care about these characters that much, which is impressive. And you know, I liked issue 6. The fact that Magneto comes to speak to Rogue in issue 6 about how she's feeling. And he's like, "Nah, I'm not going to attack. I'm here for you. It's fine. This is not
just have a chat.
This is not a villain thing." Which is one of the things that I like about the X-Men is that there is this kind of weird. It's kind of like the Flash and his rogues, where there's heroes and villains, but they kind of still are part of the same society, so they kind of have to.
It's a bit murky. Yeah.
I like that part of X-Men.
I'll say I've been enjoying the art. Bazaldua, I believe, is the artist's name for most of it. Yeah. I think all of it, but issue 6, right?
Well, I've got Valerio Schiti down here for issue 7. Was Comixology lying to me? They may have been.
It is. I'm looking at it now. I'm looking at the credits page. It's back to the same artist as 1 through 5.
Where did I get that from? It was Comixology. That's where I got all the names from. But
yeah, well, we've experienced this on the DC podcast.
It does happen from time to time.
I particularly like the faces, especially for Rogue. I think
very expressive.
Very expressive.
Yeah, the eyes do a lot of work. I will say Marvel has this tendency compared to DC to have all these really clean books where it likes to have this sheen to it, which sometimes feels a bit artificial. It's not too bad in this book, but there has been other books from Marvel where I feel like it's almost like it's post-processed too much.
I agree, and I think this latest issue where it's channeling a noir in parts of the story,
there's a little bit, yeah,
could have done with a little bit more grit to it.
Yeah, even go full on black and white. Just do it.
That would have been a nice touch.
Yeah, just do it for the noir
I mean,
parts.
they kind of get away with it by the character in control being like, no, I'm modernizing it.
Sure, yeah, which is why that Rogue's in skin tight leather and not like an actual noir outfit.
yeah, and fine, whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah, people like skin tight leather. That's the whole thing.
Can't argue with that.
So now we're getting to issue 7. So the big cliffhanger at the end of issue 6 was that they open a housewarming present, and they just like get teleported, or at least get knocked out, and they wake up upside down in chains, which was funny because that happened halfway through the first arc as well.
Yeah.
So it was a nice callback. So who's this villain here?
Second page. They're called Mojo.
Yeah, the Mojo verse. Is that what the big guy's called? Is he Mojo?
Yes.
He's Mojo. Okay. So he's putting them into basically like a Matrixy style thing where he's making them the characters in a thing, and by the end of it they kind of realize, but he puts it in called honeymoon lighting, and you know, Gambit's this PI, Rogue's in our leather outfit, and they're going to they're stealing a thing, right? No,
they're escaping maybe.
No, because they're at the office.
Oh
first.
yeah, you're right. They're going up to get the Winding Heart. Was it called?
That's what it was. Yeah. It's just a MacGuffin. That's the point, because it's just a story. It's a MacGuffin. And they end up. There's a pretty good fight sequence actually, with all of them fighting all these guys.
There is, yeah.
Like you said, the art's really good. And it ends up in a bird, and then Rogue realizes this isn't right. Something's wrong, and then the digital world kind of breaks down a little bit around them. And she actually sees herself like, you know, kill a Gambit. Gambit, like, you know, goes all skeleton-y from her touch.
Yeah. I'm okay with this. Let's leave that.
Just leave that, yeah. Also, why does Mojo's like henchwoman have a helmet that's very Shogun-esque? It's like Shogun.
It is, isn't it? There was a little description box of who she was, which again is something I appreciate in books. Is like, okay, I don't know them.
I didn't know any of these characters, so I appreciated it telling me.
She is called Spiral. It says sorceress and intergalactic teleporter / time traveler, slave of Mojo. So probably a trophy from
Yeah,
some
maybe.
time travel.
Yeah. But it stuck out to me.
No, it's cool, right?
Yeah, it stuck out to me. Yeah, Mojo himself's a very Jabba the Hutt-esque kind of dude. Big fat dude. He's got like metal spider legs, but other than that, he's a big fat dude.
Yeah.
So he wants more stories. He's going to have other stories. So he makes Spiral seems to be the one who's like making the stories happen with her powers.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, oh no, these things are good for ratings. All these changes, right?
Yeah. So then we get like a Sleeping Beauty thing at the end here, and we get like and I knew the reveal was going to be that it's not Gambit in the hood because they were hiding his face, and he comes in and kisses her, and then it's Long Shot.
Yeah, I will say I laughed very hard when Mojo's at the end. Like, that's right, mindless masses. I've recast.
I like that too. I'm liking the. I think Kelly Thompson's writing's like more than enough to make this work, especially with the art being pretty good.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't matter that I don't really like rolling. Maybe by the end of this, but I don't see this lasting forever. This will be this will be lucky if it gets to 20 issues, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Who knows? Maybe it will. I mean, hell, Unbeatable Squirrel Girl's up to like issue 40. So
somehow
people like Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. it's
of all the books to get up to that number for Marvel, right?
But no, I'm digging it well enough. I enjoyed this issue.
I would say this issue was pretty good. I'd have loved it if it lent into the genre stuff a little bit more.
I agree. I was feeling a bit weird about it at first because I was like, this feels really random, like a side story. But when it got to the end and it was like, oh, we're going to do another one, we're going to keep changing things, and like you say, Mojo being like, oh yeah, we're going to like change things and recast and like all this stuff, I was like, okay, I'm getting the fun of this now. I'm getting what the point of this is.
Yeah. I'm into the concept of this arc a lot more than I was the first.
Yes. So yeah, are we rating it then? Issue 7.
7.5.
That's what I was going to say. But the difference is I decided what my rating was before you said it, though, so now I'm annoyed it's the same.
Yeah, this is the thing. I write down on my ratings before anyway, so if I'm hesitating, it's either am I changing my mind or am I going with what I said earlier,
sometimes
or I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah, sometimes talking about it can make you sway one way or the other.
It's happened before. I mean, anyone who's listened to our TV reviews in the past will know that we've gone into something being like, I mean, it was all right, and we've come out of it hating it.
We have done, yes, that's happened a few times. That'll take us on to Killmonger issue 3 miniseries, 5-issue miniseries I think it is.
Yes.
Bryan Hill writing this issue, Johnny Ferreyra on the art. Names that we know from DC. Bryan Hill did a Detective Comics arc recently, and
Ferreyra is phenomenal.
Yes, he did a Green Arrow art for a long time.
Basically, he is 90% of the reason why I went, let's try this book.
I will say, maybe this is a controversial thing, I don't think his art here is as good as his Green Arrow stuff.
I think there are points where it's better.
Okay.
There are certain points where I'm like, okay, no, this is gorgeous.
Can I make a guess and say that it's a couple of the 2-page layouts where they're like massacring that room full of people in issue 2?
Some of that, and there's some bits with just varying colours where I'm like, no, this is gorgeous.
Actually, I'll give you the bullseye stuff actually at the start of this issue.
There was a panel, I don't know if it was in this issue or one of the previous ones, with Kingpin, and it's just a panel. I think Kingpin's in a car, and it's a shot of the city behind him with all the lights.
Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, that's this issue. Yeah, that's issue 3.
And then everything in the spirit realm. I don't know the correct term. Yeah, where he's talking to the
Big
to
Panther.
The spirits. Yeah. I think all the color work in that particularly makes it look fantastic.
Yeah, I think for Ferreyra, my favorite art is still all the underwater stuff from that arc of Green Arrow.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
That was phenomenal. It's good. It's just, some of the stuff where it's just people sitting around talking. It's like, okay, this isn't showing them off as much as Green Arrow would do on a more consistent basis, I think. But there are some great action sequences. Probably my favourite sequence of the book was in issue 2 where they massacre like that room full of people, and it's just like 3 pages of 2-page layouts. Well, I say 6 pages. It's like 6 pages of 2-page layouts. Just like brutally murdering everything. That was a really well put together scene.
Bryan has fantastic flow.
Yeah. So the plot of this is pretty simple. It's kind of, it even tells you in the recap page, it specifically says this is set between when Killmonger, grew up and when he came back to Wakanda for the plot well, essentially the movie, which I'm going to reference because I've seen the movie and I've not read much Black Panther, but presumably a very similar story.
Like it was a similar concept, yeah.
So we see him leave school, MIT. So he's a really smart dude, but he's determined to like hunt down Claw because Claw enslaved him as a kid. It's all about vengeance, and he is going to assassinate him. And he ends up getting roped into this team that Kingpin has. Who are all named after chess pieces. You know, it's Rook, King, Knight, yeah. And they kind of recruit him as the fourth. You know, they kind of trick him into like thinking he's okay, but he kills like some henchmen, and that recruits him. And then issue 2 is where they do their big job. They do it his way, and it works. And they massacre these people at the same time because if they kill just one of these 4 people, the other 3 would go into hiding. It become much difficult. They have to do it at the same time. It's a whole thing. Yeah. And then you also have the fact that he seems to have this kind of relationship forming with Knight, who at first hates his guts, and I think it kind of builds it well to the point where we get to this issue when they finally kind of do something about it, where it feels a bit more.
Yeah, I think the silhouette kiss panel is fantastically drawn.
Yeah, and it sets up Killmonger as this character who you understand where he's coming from, but he's obviously a very like violent character who
he is
very
he's
angry.
Still reasonably likable
to a point,
to a point, yeah. Like not like this guy's great, but I'm like, okay, I understand that he's a layered man. He's he doesn't feel like just an archetype of
which is good writing, and it's consistent with what I thought about him in the movie, where I thought he was clearly the villain, but he had some very interesting motivations that didn't ring false.
Yeah, and this is obviously there. I think he gets to be a bit more likable here compared to a movie where it's his book. We're spending time with him as a younger man and seeing what he went through, right? A bit more directly.
Yeah, so this issue, or last issue, it was last issue they met Kingpin, because that was where the meeting happened. Where
I was just looking. There is a panel with Kingpin stood in front of the city in this issue, not the one I was referring to.
No, it's the one in the car. Because the cliffhanger of issue 2 was that Kingpin gives him this job, but King kind of like says, no, this is a setup he wants rid of us. He wants us to go after Bullseye. No one can do that. And what's funny for me is that Bullseye's not a character I've seen much of. It was in a little bit of the Daredevil stuff I've read, but it's been a while, so I don't really remember much of it. Here they present, start of issue 3, they present him as this like ultra killer who like he is like the Terminator. Not so much because he's indestructible, but because he has the skill to.
He's just that good.
Yeah. Because he kills Rook at the end of issue 2, and I thought they did a really smart thing where it let us know because of his healing factor that the only way to actually kill him is to behead him. So at the end of the issue, when he gets beheaded, we know it's for real. We know he's dead.
Yeah, I particularly like Bullseye in this. He gets up close and slashes the throat, and he's like, it's nice not to even need to throw it, just to prove that I just can do it this way as well.
Yeah, because Killmonger was like big mouthed and a bit saying, we can take on Bullseye. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who Daredevil is either, because he calls him Devil Man, because he can't remember what someone called him. And Knight and him end up spend the night together because they're going to hiding. It's like, okay, now we have to run. New York's not safe, which Kingpin's kind of accepting of. Because we get a conversation with Kingpin and Bullseye where he's like, if they're smart now, they'll just leave and it's fine. But I don't care. I don't care if
cut the losses. Yeah.
But if they do stick around, then you'll be called upon for some overtime.
Yeah.
And basically, Knight's actually made a deal with S.H.I.E.L.D. because we think she's actually betraying him for Kingpin at first, maybe, because he gets kidnapped with all these people, but it turns out Knight's actually talking to Black Widow of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they've got them because they want to take down this ring and Kingpin and everything else. And basically, Killmonger is like, no, let's warn King about them coming for him. That's not because you're just a slave to them now. You've traded freedom for a master, because that's his viewpoint. If even though we see why S.H.I.E.L.D. are kind of the good guys here, because they're tracking down villains. They're like, these are bad people.
This goes back to the first issue of this series where when they're offering him all these things he can do coming out of MIT, and he's like, no, because then I'm trapped.
Yeah, he sees all of that as just the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Again, it's his flawed viewpoint of the world because of his upbringing.
But it's one that, again, like I can understand it.
Oh, it makes sense.
It's not an inherently bad or evil viewpoint.
No, it's the wrong viewpoint, but you get why he thinks like that.
Yeah.
So at the end, when he's trying to convince Knight on the ship that they're on with Shield, he basically describes Wakanda, because we've seen him like close his eyes and like imagine being there like before, and he says, no, let's go back to Wakanda and you can be my queen, and we get like this final page of like him convincing her, presumably successfully, I would imagine, because it happens earlier on in the book where he tells her to close her eyes and he describes Wakanda, and at the end here it's like, no, she's the queen, he's the king. Given that I'm pretty sure that she doesn't go with him in the story, I expect her to have a nasty ending by the end of this.
Quite likely that, or he does something so horrific
that she doesn't want to be with him.
Yeah, I can see either option.
I can see that. But it's pretty good. Credit, Joe. I think it is. I think this is obviously only exists because the movie did so well. That's why there's a Shuri comic as well.
But they put a strong team on it. This wasn't just thrown out slapdash.
But the reason why I'm saying that is because I think the movie teed this up for me. If I hadn't seen the movie and knew who Killmonger was, I think I'd have a harder time getting into this.
I agree. Yeah.
But because I have a good idea of who Killmonger is, what his motivations are, it was easy for me to like delve more into this and like, okay, right, I know who this is. Let's go into it.
Yeah, this is a different version, but it's recognizable as okay. I understand. I have a starting point.
But you put Bryan Hill on it, and you have the strong character work. You have a good artist in Ferreyra. I feel like you're kind of working for me. So I'm enjoying a Killmonger miniseries, which is something that I would never have said a year ago. So
I would probably never have said that a month ago.
I mean, let's face it, a year ago, I didn't know who Killmonger was. I wouldn't have known his name.
No, it's true. It's funny because you went, we were looking at books. Should we catch up for this?
Yeah.
And I said Killmonger, and you went, probably not. And then I happened to click on it, and I went, I just saw the team.
Yeah, it's Bryan Hill and Ferreyra, and I'm glad we did. I'm glad it was good.
Yeah, it was good.
I think trying more Marvel books will lead to me caring a bit more characters that I will be more interested in trying. Right now, there's a bunch where I'm like, There's some that will never change, though. Doctor Strange, no matter what happens, I am never going to give a shit about.
Yeah, but in theory, over time, we'll care about a few more, and maybe we won't go, oh, who cares about that book, right? We might go, yeah, go on then.
Yeah. So what we rating it? Killmonger issue 3. What we rating this?
It's a 7.5 from me.
I'm gonna go 8. Not just to be different, but I think it was
a little bit to be different.
But it was good. It was solid, good writing, good art. I think his promises to Knight are interesting, and is she going to be swooned by that? And is it her downfall? Like her not just taking the deal with Shield and doing what they want. Is that actually her downfall? And that's kind of the whole thing, is because one of the big things in issue 2 is that King says, no, you let your anger drive you, and that will eventually betray you. And ultimately it will, because ultimately Black Panther's going to beat him.
Yeah.
And win. And it might also be the downfall of Knight as well here, because she'll buy into it, and that'll be the end. So
it's pretty good.
What about the other? Yeah, it's pretty good. So that'll take us on to the other miniseries issue that came out this week, which is Winter Soldier issue 2. Obviously we read issue 1 to in prep for this. This is Cale Higgins writing and Rod Reis on the art. I wasn't familiar with Rod Reis. I do think it's interesting that Ivan Reis is an artist, and I'm like, that is the only place I've ever seen that name before. And there was a second comic book artist with that name.
So where are they? Reis, I think, is he? Cause he's not American, is he?
I have no idea where Reis is from. Reis looks Brazilian to me, but that is a complete stab in the dark. It looks Southern American to me.
Familiar.
But
Brazilian. So I wonder if it's a common Brazilian name.
It probably is. It's probably like Smith anywhere else.
It probably is.
But yeah. So Winter Soldier. I mean, Winter Soldier's an interesting character because I've not read all of Brubaker's I've read like the first 2 volumes. I haven't even got to the death of Captain America and Brubaker's. I have to go back and read
I've not read any of it.
I do want to do it, especially since I'm enjoying the new Cap book quite a bit, and I know Brubaker is a great writer. And obviously, I like Winter Soldier way more than I like Classic Bucky, for sure. I have no interest in Classic Bucky. Winter Soldier's an interesting character.
No comparison.
Bucky's just the origin story. That's all he is. Like, you know, Winter Soldier's the interesting part. Because he's got this dark past. He's fighting for redemption, and that's a big part of this book. We find out that he's working with Sharon Carter. There's a joke that she's doing a lot of things right now because she's also in Cap.
Yeah.
Tony kind of helps set them up financially. And they're helping basically villains who want to redeem themselves, who want to like get out of the villainy, of the lifestyle, and have a second start. Basically, witness protection in a way.
Kind of, yeah.
Get away from their organizations and turn over a new leaf. And because Bucky has kind of done that, he was programmed to kill people. He's done bad things, and he's willing to like believe in redemption. He wants to do that for others. So we see him like save this cop who like is with corrupt cops, and that's kind of issue 1, and he gets him away and all that. And it sets up the premise of the book. But the end of issue 1 is it's a different guy he goes to visit, right? It's not the one he saved at the start of the book.
As far as I recall, yes. I read this quite a bit earlier, that issue. But
he goes to the guy, and it reveals that, wait, you called your wife? You know, obviously, like, no, that can be traced. And, you know, Hydra have sent this assassin to kill him. And it looks like Bucky. It looks like classic Bucky. It's a young kid who's dressed up as Bucky. And so we start issue 2, and you know Bucky, Winter Soldier, I'll say, gets shot repeatedly in the chest. He's got you know a vest on, but we get this really cool fight scene.
Yeah, I actually really love we open on a flashback.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we open the flashback to this new kid.
2 years ago,
when he's recruited by someone from Hydra.
Yeah, I really like the art, particularly in this sequence, where it's all black and white except the blood, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah, because he basically the guy gets all this food for himself. It's like far too much food, and he's not giving the kid anything. And then he says, "If you're hungry, then prove it. Go and like kill those 2 guys in that booth." And the worst part about it is that when he comes back and he starts eating, when we see the reveal of all the chaos, because we don't see any of this happen on panel, we just like hear we get the sound effects coming in, and
I love that the sound effects are in red as well. They really stick out.
But when we see the actual like aftermath of this, he actually also had to end up killing the waitress who was nice to him at the start of the scene. I mean, it's just that little thing where it makes you care about her as a human being just a little bit, so that when he kills her, 2-3 pages later, it's like, that was dark.
Yeah.
So it's a good opening, and then I think the art in general is really good, actually. I'm not familiar with Reis. Sorry?
No, I was just agreeing. I also think it's really good. I'm not familiar either, but really strong stuff.
Even in issue 1, everything with Bucky on the bike when he's just riding on the highway or the long deserted roads and stuff, it just looks good. That's atmosphere.
Yeah. There's no separate colorist listed in the credits page, so I'm going to assume that Reis does it himself.
I can see that.
Which is something I really want to credit, because I think the colours are gorgeous. I mentioned that red there, but as soon as we cut back to almost watercolour-esque colour palettes throughout the book.
Yeah, no, the art's really good, and I think the colouring is a big part of that. It's really good.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to say when the kid walks back to the table and he's drenched in blood, I like that especially.
So good, yeah.
Because it's like black with just red on top of it. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Now everything about it, Bucky's arm gets like almost ripped off at one point. It's like dangling at the elbow.
Yeah, it gets sliced through by this vibranium sword.
Yeah, the fight scene looks great. Them on the bike looks great, and then eventually, ultimately, what happens at the end of this? Because the kid bites he's got like a tooth, like a signal tooth.
Yeah.
And it triggers like this guy to come and get him, and everything looks great when the bike flips over and it's on fire. The fire looks amazing. So much atmosphere. The guy's got nunchucks and he's fighting Bucky. And ultimately, the guy, like, this is your final test and you failed because Winter Soldier's still alive. He shoots the kid, and it goes right through and hits Bucky in the leg.
There's a game where he's like, "Oh, you failed. There's no return for you. I don't need you anymore." And Bucky stands up and he goes, "Oh, perhaps I was wrong. You do still have worth. The worth being, oh, you're a great distraction because he's not gonna think I'm shooting through you."
Yeah. And there's a big explosion. It's really good. Again, the fire looks great. There's Bucky beats the guy to a bloody pulp.
The whole page is just caked in red.
Yeah, really, really strong color schemes. And ultimately, like, this is a story where at the end, Bucky kind of offers his hand in friendship and says, "Hey, your name's RJ. Nice to meet you. You can call me Bucky." And it's like, no, he's going to even try and redeem this kid. And given that this book started with him brutally murdering 3 innocent people in a diner, it's a lot to say to us, no, this kid can become something better even with that in his past. Because it's not his fault that he was forced to do that. I mean, sure, he had the fire in him that he was able to do it, but he was led down that path. And
oh, definitely, yeah.
Bucky, of course, because of becoming the Winter Soldier, understands that and he sympathizes with that. He's willing to give him a chance and try and help.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous sunrise as well on that final page.
Yeah. I will also say this book went in really quick. This issue in particular.
Yeah, I thought the first issue was good. I thought the second issue was much better.
Yeah, the second issue was really good. It felt like it was done in no time.
Yeah.
It might actually be one of the best issues I've ever read from Kyle Higgins, because I like Higgins well enough, but he doesn't blow me away usually. He's usually fine.
Yeah, I typically like Higgins a bit more than you do.
You do.
I'm quite, which is why I thought, oh, I want to try this. That was the main reason. Cause I even before we started this podcast, this was on my radar to try.
Yeah.
Not because it's Winter Soldier, because I don't really care about Winter Soldier, but because of Higgins, and he's knocked out of the park.
No, I think Winter Soldier, much like Cap, when it's treated with a bit of weight and like a thriller, I'm into it, and I think Higgins' Nightwing I thought was just okay. His Power Ranger stuff, which I've not finished, but from what I've read, I enjoy it well enough. A bit overwritten at times, but enjoyable.
His Nightwing mini, what's that called?
New Order.
New Order. I thought that was great.
I thought it was not bad. Yeah.
I definitely like that more than you as well.
I think this feels like the most confident thing he's written. I feel like he knew when to shut up. Just tell the story, and I really like that. So
I think having a strong artist that you can trust really helps.
Yeah. So no, I really like this. So what you rating it?
I'm gonna give it an 8.
I'm gonna give it a 9.
Oh.
I really liked it. I was surprised. I think Killmonger and Winter Soldier, because there were these minis. Like I tend to look at minis unless it's something that I know I love. I tend to see minis as this extra add-on thing that I'm never usually that enthusiastic about.
They're skippable.
Until they wow me, and I'm happy to say both Killmonger and Winter Soldier were good enough to grab me and say, hey, no, you should keep reading this. Winter Soldier, I think, is probably the better of the two, clearly, because I give it a 9, but they're both really good. So, Winter Soldier, great. So that'll take us on to a book that Connor will talk about, because I ain't reading this. Star Wars: Age of Republic, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Issue 1. Jodie Houser writing, and I do like Jodie Houser, so it says something that I'm still not willing to read it. With Wilton Santos and Corey Smith on the art. So what are these one-shots?
So I'm going to just explain briefly what the concept of these is.
Sure.
Because they announced 3 maxi series. One from Jodie Houser, one from, I think, Greg Pak, and I want to say the third one was Tom Taylor, but I'm not entirely sure on those.
What?
Yeah.
Why are all these good writers being wasted on Star Wars? This is a shame. This is a travesty.
So this is the first maxi series, which is, these are all maxi series made up of one-shots. So this one is Age of Republic. These are all Jodie Houser, and it's, all set in the Republic time period, around the prequels, basically. Then you've got the next one is Age of Rebellion, which is set around, original trilogy, and then Age of Resistance, which is, the new trilogy. So they're the 3 maxi series that we're going to go through.
I don't really want to read any extended Star Wars stuff. Like I don't want more of that world, but I certainly don't want more of that world around the prequels.
See, that's what's fascinating, because the prequels are undoubtedly the worst part of Star Wars. But the media around it, like Clone Wars, is some of my favorite of all.
I have seen different opinions on this. I've actually heard of someone who loves Rebels, but no matter how much they tried, they couldn't get into Clone Wars because seeing stuff from that era just turned them off.
I understand that. I think the storytelling in Clone Wars is really smart, and it made the prequels existing worth it to have that show. As far as I'm concerned,
I feel like that's going to be a different opinion depending who you talk to. But
it is, it is. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned. So this is the Age of Republic. Each one is a one-shot around a different character. Every month has 2 issues. A hero
so
and a
let me
villain.
get it straight. Houser's doing 12 issues of this.
I don't know if it was 12. Let me just have a quick
You said maxi,
check.
which usually means 12.
I did say maxi, because I said maxi because they consistently described it as maxi.
I wonder if they're including all of them, though. Like, is it
8.
4 of each? No. I was going to say,
Yeah.
maybe it's 4 of each, so they're counting the whole thing as a maxi.
Yeah, they are. So,
Okay.
This one is 8 issues.
Right, okay.
8 plus a special, which I'll get to, because I'm not.
All right.
I think the special has different writers involved on that one, so that was just a bonus one.
All right. We'll
So
talk about the book, because quicker the better.
Yeah. So Jodie Hazler is doing all of these. We've had one of each so far. So last month we had Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul. So those were the first ones. This month we're getting Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I think we got Jango Fett next week. So a hero and a villain, right? They are very straightforward issues actually to talk about because it is just a one shot. They're not doing anything overly out there. This one is set around Obi-Wan trying to accept Anakin as a Padawan, basically.
It's a bad idea. Turn around.
He's already, they're in training. They're already, officially master apprentice, yada yada yada, and it's the idea that Obi-Wan keeps leaving him behind on missions, saying, Anakin, I don't think you're ready, sort of thing. And ultimately, it comes down to no, he has to take him on one and kind of give it a show of faith, right? To kind of like try and earn some respect both ways. So Anakin will feel like he's not just being thrown in with all the younger kids that he feels he's ahead of, and so that he feels like he's actually benefiting, rather than just being there for the sake of it. So that's the point of the issue. It's basically, he's got to go and collect something from an archaeological dig turned up an old holocron, which just basically a records device. And they've got to go and get it. But then there's like pirates who think that there's treasure found there because Jedi are showing up. There's off-worlders that are coming to claim the treasure, so they think, oh, whatever it is must be really important and worth a lot of money. So there's a gorgeous fight sequence with Obi-Wan, just ripping through all these things, and then Anakin gets, they're caught unawares, and they got like a knife to his throat, which is satisfying. Not gonna lie.
Oh yes.
Because this is still a young kid. This is only at most a couple of years after episode 1.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the chosen one. There's only one thing I'm choosing him for.
Yeah.
Brutal, bloody murder.
He basically gets out of it by using the Force to throw some rocks at the dude's head, which is pretty much all he can do at the minute. It's like his best trick. But
hey, it's all Ray can do at the minute.
yeah, no, it is. It's true. These are not even that size rocks, though. To be honest, these are quite small rocks.
Yes.
Yeah. Art's really good. There is 2 artists. I think one of them just does like some flashback stuff to do with Obi-Wan thinking about the lessons he learned from Qui-Gon. And how he wants to try and pass those on and live up to the legacy that he feels he has. It's a very straightforward issue. It's very nice. It's not a very deep thing to talk about though, but it is enjoyable.
Take a word for it. For
it. It's a solid 7.
Interestingly, sometimes in Scottish slang, the word one can sometimes be pronounced as Juann.
Okay.
Right. So throughout most of what you were saying there, I was sitting thinking of like how I could turn Obi-Wan Kenobi into something stupid, like only one Shinobi, meaning only one Shinobi.
I got it. Not the best work though, is it?
Well, do you try to think of things that rhyme with Kenobi?
I'm not even gonna try because I know that is a fruitless task.
Cannoli's a thing.
Sure.
I'm not entirely sure what a cannoli is, but a cannoli is a thing.
Yeah. No, I've been enjoying these one shots so far. The Darth Maul one was probably the most interesting out of the 3, but they've all been solid. I mean, the Jodie Howser writing them, so they've all been solid at the very least, right?
Is there going to be an Anakin one specifically?
There is. That is next month. So the hero ones coming up left are Anakin and Padme. The villains have Jango, Count Dooku, and General Grievous.
Yes. And for the record, Anakin is no chosen one. There is only one chosen one. Well, at least one per generation.
Do you know what's really annoying about you doing this?
Yes.
Is I can't remember what the line was now. There was a comic that we've read, and there was a line that was used in Buffy at some point. Really? And I was like, oh, you're going to use that.
Probably because I was catching up so much, I didn't remember it. But
unless it was in Iron Man, in which case you wouldn't have read it.
Yeah, that's a fair
Which
point.
is possible. So
Yeah.
I don't remember what book it was. I can't remember the quote now, but I remember thinking, God damn it, he's going to do it.
Yes. And what was I going to do? I was going to reference the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. No show is safe from the Buffy reference. No show is safe. What you rating it? Did you rate it? No,
I did. I said 7.
I did. Okay, cool. Well, that'll take me on then. This didn't have an issue out this week. It's got an issue out next week. There was a couple of books with an issue out next week, but I've got 1 or 2 to catch up on. So I could have done a number of things, but I picked this one I was curious. This was the one that grabbed me. Also, it helped that the issues were on sale still for a couple of days in the end of the Christmas sale.
Also, it's one that I was not planning on reading.
That's true.
So it meant that I didn't have more stuff to try and read as well.
That's also true. I totally thought of you, yes, in that scenario. I thought, oh, this won't give him something to do. Yes, I'm considerate that way.
Yes, I'm sure you are.
No one's more humble and considerate than I am. So this is William Gibson's Alien 3. There's been 2 issues so far. Issue 3 is next week. And this is William Gibson wrote a script for Alien 3 that followed on from Aliens that was never used. And it's one of these things where there's been kind of like lots of legends about it, like, oh, what was the script like and what was this? So as you know, some Dark Horse and other publishers have done in the past with licenses, they've gotten the rights to just do it, just adapt it for a comic book, so that we can see what the third movie could have been had this script been used. So we have the Sulaco from Aliens be found, and Ripley's actually in like kind of a coma after a brief stint of waking up, but Hicks and Newt are up and around on this station. There's a lot of politics between, or well, maybe politics isn't the right word. Well, it's kind of politics because there's kind of an armistice and there's like a treaty about who's allowed to cross into what sector, but it's more the businesses that are like, it's almost like the businesses are now the armies, like, rather than governmental bodies.
That sounds about what I expect, given my knowledge of that universe.
But it gets into some of the nitty-gritty of that kind of early on, and like one of them kind of snuck onto the Sulaco before the people who were supposed to have it in their sector found it, and they actually like there was an egg coming out of Bishop. That's where the alien comes from in this. There was an egg kind of like planted in Bishop, and there's an alien that gets made that's on the Sulaco when it gets to this place. They've not really been attacked that much as of yet. It's kind of building up to it, which is probably the weirdest thing about this series, is because it is adapted from a screenplay. It does, these first 2 issues feel like the first like 15-20 minutes of a movie.
They don't feel like their own chapters. They just feel like this is a part. This will probably read great collected at the end then.
Yeah, probably will. So it feels a little bit slow going early on, but I don't necessarily mind it because it is this is a weird example where I almost want it to just be the movie it was going to be rather than be a comic book, even though I'm reading it as a comic book.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
You want to see the unfiltered raw script brought to life rather than, oh, let's adapt it for a comic.
Yeah, pretty much. I think like they do a thing here at the start of the second issue where there's a flash, because we already know that the guy got a face hugger and there's an alien probably born on the ship, but there's a flashback to the actual chest burster at the start of the second issue. I think just to give you some alien action, because there's nothing really much else.
Yeah.
In the book, and a lot of it's about like the boss at this station being told that he has to do because they're like not a weapons, they're like a lab, like a science station, who does like bioengineering stuff, but they're being told from the higher ups to like pivot to weaponing, like we want bioweapons, we want which obviously ties into the themes of Alien
naturally,
and whatnot, and they're not really happy about it, but it's what pays the bills, so it's the only reason they have jobs, and we have these rivals, and there's a lot of talk about. We'll tell them this much about what we did before they got to the ship, so they give us back our dead crew member who was left on it. But they're kind of denying they have him, and there's that's where the political sort of stuff comes in. And Hicks is like wants to debrief. He's like determined because he's a soldier, he's a marine. He's determined to be debriefed, and he's basically told that there's no point. Like your command is now here. Like you've been told to kind of work with us. But there is some nice art in this one. There's some spacewalk stuff. Try to like find stuff on the ship. The cliffhanger is basically that the scientist lady has been analysing like DNA from the dead guy, and that she's found that there's like another DNA that's like latched onto his, and that's the cliffhanger. But the line specifically where they've tried to make a cliffhanger out of this is that the other guy, she's basically saying, hey, this is starting to get kind of weird and like, you know, really biological extreme. Shouldn't there be a containment like facility for this so it doesn't spread? And the guy's like, no, this station is the containment facility. And she's like, shit. Like basically, if something goes wrong, they're all screwed. They're kind of expendable in that sense. So yeah, it's got a weird pacing to it. Because of what it is. I believe it's 5 issues total. Issue 3's out next week.
Should start picking up soon then.
So I'm looking forward to the cover for issue 3 actually is a xenomorph, which to its credit, the first two weren't. The first one was just the egg. The second one was just Bishop's, like, you know, half body from Aliens.
It's a bold because in comics, covers are misleading, right? I wouldn't have been too annoyed at them for, hey, new Alien book, let's throw a xenomorph on the front of the first issue.
I actually feel confident that the next issue will have it and that the cover's not misleading because the first two were very accurate to what was on it. They're also very good covers. They're very minimalistic. A lot of space around like the middle object that they've got. It's an interesting one. There's a new Alien book starting this month actually as well, Aliens Resistance, which I'll definitely be doing. I don't know if Conan wants to jump on that one.
I'm considering it. This is the one that is a sequel to Alien Isolation, the game, right?
And it's Bryan
Which
Wood.
I've not played, but I do like Bryan Wood from what I've read in general. So, I mean, maybe.
I don't think you'll be lost.
I would hope.
She was on a station. There was an alien. It was a long ordeal. She eventually jettisoned it into space. It's fine.
Was she one of the only survivors?
Yes.
With maybe someone over the radio.
I say jettisoned into space. Like, I don't want to spoil the ending. That's not really what happens. But
But you know, that's Alien, right?
Yeah.
So it'll do.
But yeah, so no, I like the Alien Isolation a lot. So. Mostly, I just like the idea of Bryan Wood writing an Alien story because the last one he did was quite good. That was Aliens Defiance. So there's also the final issue of Dust to Dust, which I think might be next week as well. I may talk about that on the show if I get a chance to catch up on it because I got the first 3 issues when they were on sale over Christmas. So if I catch up on that, I may talk about that as a whole.
I've read the first 2. Art's fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's Hardman from Green Lantern Earth 1, which was a selling point. It was like, as soon as I knew it was him, I was like, oh, I'm reading this. No way.
Yeah. I think he wrote it as well, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, it's just him. Which is the same. Again, Green Lantern Earth 1, he was the whole thing. So, because I think when we read that, I even said he'd be perfect for an Alien book because of the art in space with ships.
You did, and that was obviously before that was announced.
Yeah.
You're lucky that is on record, you saying that.
I know, but I did say that back. It was like like March or April last year. It was long before this would have been announced.
Yeah, we did that for one of the monthly episodes on Patreon.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by this. To see where it goes. I don't think it's one of the better Alien books I've read because of the weird pacing, but it's interesting. Like, I'm fascinated reading it because this could have been Alien 3.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see where it goes. But yeah. So that's actually the last books we're going to talk about, which
Did you rate that one?
Oh, yeah, right, I didn't. Well, no, because it wasn't a new issue.
Oh, that's true.
Because we didn't rate them last week when it was just like the bundles.
No, you're right.
But I mean, it's kind of in like a 7-ish range because of the pacing. It can't rise above that just now.
That's cool.
But like I say, I think when it's all 5 issues, it might the opinion might weigh a bit more.
Yeah,
one way or the other. So that will take us on to the final section of the show, which if you're used to our DC show, Comics from the Multiverse, you'll know is where we pick our favourite panel/moment of the week, our favourite art of the week, our favourite cover, and do our top 5 books of the week, which, it'll just be the new issues that'll count for, but that'll be everything for this week. So, Connor, what was your panel/moment?
I'm going to steal the easy one from Winter Soldier, of the kid walking back covered in blood, just in that black and white with just the red.
You're kind of a bastard for taking that. Not that we can't double up, but I don't want to.
Yeah, we try not to.
I'm going to take the long night. I'm going to take the ships at night. That first page where we go to them, because that was where I was like, oh, okay, I've got atmosphere here.
Yeah,
I'm into this. Yeah. That kind of drew me in, so I'll take that. I thought it was quite impressive. So best cover of the week. Oh man, this is hard.
I can jump in because for me, it's quite easy. With a gorgeous striking cover is Killmonger 3.
You know what? Yeah, I'm just glancing. I haven't been able to check all the variants though, so I don't know.
No, I haven't either.
Although I
But
think did Marvel put the variants in the digital versions like DC do?
I don't think so.
No, they don't. So we can't check them as easily.
We'd have to go and manually check them all, and
maybe if I remember to do it next week, sure. But I'm not going to do it this time.
Yeah.
To its credit, as much as I didn't like the issue, the Daredevil, the Man Without Fear.
Oh, with the melting mask sort of thing. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good. I'm still going to go with Killmonger, but
yeah,
pretty good. All right, so best art of the week.
This is tough. It's down to 3 options for me personally.
So one's Killmonger, one's Winter Soldier, right?
Yeah, and the other one is Conan.
That one's Conan. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to go with Winter Soldier. I think Winter Soldier's the art I like the most. By a little margin, at least. It played with its colors. It had atmosphere. It had grit to it. They were right not to do the clean thing on this that I feel like a lot of Marvel books do.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I'm gonna go with Killmonger ultimately, but okay. I mean, all 3 of them are great.
Which leads to the top 5 books of the week. Connor.
Yeah, so at the top is Conan the Barbarian. 2 is Winter Soldier. 3, oh, where is it? No, 2's Immortal Hulk. 3's Winter Soldier. 4's Killmonger. 5 is Long Night.
All right, my number 1 is Winter Soldier, issue 2. Number 2 is Immortal Hulk. Number 3 is Wolverine the Long Night. Number 4 is Killmonger. And number 5 is... I'm basically the same between Mr. and Mrs. X and Uncanny X-Men.
Yeah, I know which of the 2 I'd lean to out of those, personally.
The strengths and weaknesses are different.
They are. I know which one I enjoyed more, ultimately.
Yeah, I think I'll say Mr. and Mrs. X, just because it was tighter as a piece of writing, and the art was a bit better. But that's where I'm landing.
Do you know what? After this week, I'm glad we're doing this show. Because this was quite a strong week overall, and it convinced me to finally try these minis that were stacking up that I probably would have ended up skipping if not, which ended up being some of the best books.
Yeah, 2 of the better books were those mini issues.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm glad we're doing this show as well. And obviously I'll be glad when we start trying more issue 1s and stuff from like Image and things like that, which will lead us to more of a stronger indie section at the end. Obviously right now, we're kind of relegated to what we've already been into.
That should go more diverse over the months.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is the show. Obviously, there's some important things to tell you about before you run away. First of all, we need to tell you what's coming next week. So let me get my list up, my handy list. It's a big week next week. We have Avengers issue 12, Uncanny X-Men issue 9. We do have Thor issue 9, although I think we're going to belay that and start talking about Thor issue 10 to give me time to catch up completely. Which I've got another month from issue 9.
Yeah.
I have I had 7 trades in a bit essentially to read. I read 2 in the last week. If I keep doing 2 a week,
should be fine. Yeah.
Comfortable for issue 10. But yeah, so we have X-23 issue 8. We have Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 2. We have a couple of big issue 1s. Captain Marvel issue 1 from Kelly Thompson. We have Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue 1 from Tom Taylor. We did have Man Without Fear issue 2, but we will not be doing that anymore because we both didn't like it. So that's gone away. You have Star Wars 59 and Star Wars Django Bango issue 1?
It's because you wrote it down like that. When I told you it was the Age of Republic Django Fett, you wrote down Django Bango because you thought it'd be funny.
And I forgot that's why I did that and just read it out.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with people knowing that I wrote down Django Bango.
Yeah.
You have Domino issue 10, which
is the last issue of the series. So I will be less talking about that issue and more just the book as a whole. There's
also a one shot for Venom, Web of Venom Unleashed issue 1. Is that Donny Cates? Is that part of the run? Or is that separate?
Kind of. This is Ryan Stegman writing it, who's been the artist on the book.
Okay.
but the other issues of Web of Venom, there's been 2 so far, have been Donny Cates, and so I'm not sure if I'm going to read this one or not, how it ties in. I'll play it by ear next week.
Okay. And then out of Marvel, we have Quantum Age issue 6, the end of the Black Hammer mini. We'll be catching up on that and reading, talking about that whole series basically with the final issue next week. Yeah. We have Die issue 2. We have Blackbird issue 4. You've been reading this. I have not, but I will catch up because it's only 3 issues and it seems worth doing. Alien 3 issue 3, as we mentioned. We have Gunning for Hits, which is a music book from Image. That's
music thriller, I believe it was described as.
Yeah. So we're going to try that. And then you also have Oblivion Song issue 11, which sounded interesting to me. I don't know if I'll have time to catch up to see if I want to jump into this, but you'll definitely be talking about it.
Yeah, so, I'm into it.
So that's the book's coming next week.
Yeah, you were right that Dust to Dust Aliens, the final issue, is next week as well. So
I'll probably be talking about that too. It's only 3 issues. I imagine
There's a Division comic starting next week.
I'm good.
Yeah, me too. I didn't realize it was a thing.
But yeah, so that's the books that are coming next week. Oh, actually, before we go, I almost forgot. Much like I started on the comics, comics from the Multiverse DC podcast this week. I should have put this at the end of our picks of the week. But I did ask on Twitter for our Twitter followers.
God, we're 2 episodes in and you're already slacking.
For their favourites. Obviously, we don't have a huge non-DC following, so we had less responses, but I'll read you a couple of them. From @BenCumbersome. Tough, but I'd say either Deadpool issue 8, which we didn't read obviously, which was surprisingly poignant with his daughter in it, or Wolverine the Long Night issue 1 because it was pretty cool seeing the podcast adapted to comic form. So that was from them. We had Corey YNWA. Conan issue 1 was great. It's so biblical in scale and the art is fantastic. Aaron is so good at these types of stories, reminding me of a lot of the Goddamned. And then we also had @Carve Nielsen. Crowded was really good. It's non-stop action, funny, and a personal story all at the same time. And points because I don't know what that book is. So
I think it's an Image book. I vaguely remember hearing about it.
So if you like some of your opinions read out on future episodes, follow us @DC Comics Podcast on Twitter, and I'll ask earlier in the day or the day before what your favourite non-DC book was, and you get to pick your favourite DC book as well for the other podcast, which we do on Saturdays. So that'll be Friday night, early Saturday. I'll ask that question on Twitter, and we'll sort of look at the consensus, but we'll also read out some of the opinions if you give us a nice little tweet to read. It's a fun way to get you guys incorporated into the show. So that's cool. Other than that, important things to tell you. Of course, we've mentioned a couple times the DC Comics podcast, Comics from the Multiverse, kind of the bigger sister show, if you will, of this. We also have a DC TV podcast called Television from the Multiverse, which is the DC TV shows. It took this week off, but it's back next week with the Young Justice episode. Oh, this week actually. It's back in a few days.
Yes.
Yeah, we took last week off. It's back in a few days with the first Young Justice episodes, and we're doing, because all the other shows are off, we do some archive content. So we went back to the start of Gotham because we hadn't watched that beyond a few episodes, so we're doing episodes of that.
I'm getting drunk for this one.
Episodes of the 90s Flash series and Batman the Animated series, so that's what we're doing on that. If that's appealing, you can find that on your podcast services or on YouTube with the video where you find this as well. So that is that. Otherwise, of course, like, subscribe, all the usual things. While you're on YouTube or a podcast app, it helps us out a lot if you support us that way. You can also support us even more so, of course, financially by going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and donating as little as $1 per month. It's a huge help. We did say last month we'd finalise details on a specific thing for the show. We did kind of forget to do that. I promise next week we'll think of a Patreon perk that ties into the show.
As of right now, there is still the monthly episodes. They're all DC themed.
Yes.
But they're all there waiting for you. You can go and check them out.
Yeah, the awkward thing about the monthly episodes is that you're like, well, can't some of those be Marvel now? But the problem is that we have DC fans who signed up because they were expecting a monthly DC show. So we can't really take away episodes for that.
Maybe we can put out a poll to the patrons and see if they would like some Marvel trades covered and see.
Here's the thing, though. If even like 2 people say they don't, I feel bad because they signed up for Patreon for that content, and then we were suggesting that we're taking it away, and I think that's a bad sign. At the same time, I don't know if we have the time to do a second monthly show with a Marvel book.
I don't think we do. We can't. We sometimes struggle to fit in the one.
So we'll have some thoughts. We'll think about it. We obviously the vetoing to go back and try an issue 1 in the month that would be skipped maybe is, I think, a good idea. But
yeah, let us know if you got any suggestions or things you'd like that if this was a reward that you'd be interested in.
Yeah. But there you go. Or even if you voted a month in advance for like definitely do this issue 1. Like that you think we maybe missed, like if it's like a Dynamite issue 1 or an Image number 1 that you think we won't get to.
I know stuff coming like just next week. Like there's a new Turok book that I didn't even look. I only saw today.
As in the video game Turok.
Yeah, dinosaurs.
Yeah. I was like, okay, that Turok, right?
Yeah. I literally only heard about this today. I saw an interview about it, and I was like, oh, I guess that's coming out tomorrow.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so we'll give some more thought to that. Please do give us suggestions. We're open to listening to ideas. Clearly we don't have time to do whole extra shows, but there's a lot of little things we can do and little perks and votes and things like that could maybe benefit things. If Marvel had like a quiet week sometimes, because we used to do that in the DC show when the week 5s were much quieter, we'd do like a trade or something on those episodes. I don't think Marvel do have like gaps in their schedule like that, but
I haven't seen any.
Yeah. Because then obviously we have time because that week's quiet, so we can do it. But
yeah, obviously when there's a week 5, DC tends to take the week off and just publish some annuals. Which, if we're not reading all the books anyway, it can lead us just doing 2 or 3 books.
Yeah, which is when we'll do like a trade or something, or we'll do like a special question episode or something like that.
Marvel, I feel, just split week 4 or 3 as well. They kind of push a few books from each week into the week 5, so it kind of evens out, but still reasonable.
It evens out, which means we'll get like 2 or 3 weeks that feel a bit quieter than normal. But then again, we're also doing other publishers, so it's not like that's the sole thing you can think about. But regardless, here we are. This has been the end of episode 2. Hopefully this is more of a regular episode that you can expect week to week. So hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation. Do let us know what you think of the books in the comments and everything else that I've said about plugging and whatnot. But that is us. So thank you for watching or listening again. We always appreciate it. Keep reading comic books. Keep reading Marvel comics. But remember that assembly is required.